Chapter 220. With such chaos in the city, there were those who were not afraid of trouble who came out to watch the commotion. Naturally, there were more people who were afraid that they would be implicated and close their doors. The whole family gathered together in fear, afraid that something even more chaotic would happen in the city. Qin Yining was protected by Mu Jinghu and Ji Yun. They watched coldly as the assassins were beaten up by the commoners. Their heads were bleeding and they fell to the ground and were mercilessly trampled on. Qin Yu and Qin Han swung their sticks and beat the people on the ground to death. As long as they thought of their family members who had died tragically, they would have endless energy. They were so tired that their robes were soaked with sweat, but they refused to stop. They wished that they could beat the assassins into mincemeat. Seeing that there was nothing to worry about, Qin Yining said, "There's nothing for us to do here. Let's go. We have to quickly go to Master Zhong's place." Yes. Ji Yun did not ask any further. She helped Qin Yining into the carriage and got in as well. Mu Jinghu sat on the shaft of the carriage outside. As the coachman drove the carriage, he curiously sized up the scene in the city. One had to know that such an important matter as cleaning up the emperor's subordinates was not something that anyone could do in their lifetime. The coachman took a secluded route and took a long detour before arriving at the Zhong residence. When Master Zhong saw that Qin Yining had personally come, he was very surprised. "Master, didn't you go up the mountain today?" He led Qin Yining into the house and instructed the servants to serve tea. He then said, "You don't look very well. Are you feeling better?" "I'm fine. I'm just taking care of the rest. Something happened on the mountain today. Fortunately, it has been resolved." Did head shopkeeper see the chaos in the city? Master Zhong seemed to still have some lingering fear. "Don't mention it. When I saw Prince Ning leading his troops into the city, I knew something was wrong. I was so scared that I hurriedly closed our shop. I just got home myself." The servants served tea. Master Zhong took it and personally served it to Qin Yining. Then he sent the servants away and forbade them from walking around outside. Qin Yining took the tea and thanked him with a smile. He took a few mouthfuls and moistened his dry throat. Then he concisely recounted what had happened on Shuiyan Mountain today. Master Zhong was dumbfounded when he heard this. He muttered, "Did the boss capture all the assassins?" "They've all been arrested. When they entered the city just now, the citizens knew that those people were assassins from Dezhou. They were so agitated that they surrounded them. I'm afraid that they'll be beaten to death. My father received the imperial edict not to kill the assassins." Seeing that the common people had no other choice, and hearing that Ning Wang had led troops to surround the imperial palace, he was anxious, angry, and afraid, and fainted. "My second uncle and third uncle hurriedly sent someone home, so I had the time to come here." Although this was what he said, how could a smart person like Master Zhong not understand the meaning behind his words? If Qin Huaiyuan really was in trouble, why would Qin Yining have the leisure to come here? Master Zhong smiled. In his heart, he secretly praised Qin Yining and Qin Huaiyuan's plan. He also despised the emperor for forbidding the family Qin from killing the assassins for revenge. However, what he said was very righteous. It's no wonder that the Marquis was so anxious that he fainted. Not to mention the Marquis. Even common people like me were scared out of their wits when they learned that Ning Wang had led troops to charge in. Ning Wang's actions have never been methodical. What if the emperor? What should we do then? As he spoke, he shook his head worriedly. Qin Yining smiled. Master Zhong was truly a wonderful person. What happens to His Majesty isn't something we should worry about. Although I want to save His Majesty, I don't have the ability. I can only pray in my heart that His Majesty is blessed. As Qin Yining spoke, he put his hands together and bowed to the sky. When Master Zhong saw this, he smiled and followed suit. However, when the two of them looked at each other, they couldn't help but let out a puff. In recent days, this was Qin Yining's happiest day. She thought for a moment, then whispered in Master Zhong's ear, "There's one more thing. Ning Wang led troops to clean up the emperor's side. I'm afraid the Chao family won't benefit from this and will probably flee. My maternal grandmother and the others are definitely not in the city right now, so they probably don't know what's going on here. Think of a way to send them a message. At this point, Qin Yining lowered his voice and said, just say that this opportunity has finally been created. Ask them to seize the opportunity. Zhong Dezong had actually long known that the alliance head of the Qingtian alliance was Duchess Ding. However, the Qingtian alliance was a rebel in the end. If he carelessly spoke of this kind of thing, it would be greatly disadvantageous to Qin Yining. It might even lead to a fatal disaster. Thus, he didn't dare to publicize it. That day, the Qingtian alliance's people broke into the marquee of Anping's estate to rescue people. In essence, it was Duchess Ding's arrangement. These days, because such a big matter had happened in the marquee of Anping's estate, Duchess Ding was worried and had remained in the outskirts of the city. Master Zhong also knew where they were. All right, there's no time to lose. I'll immediately go personally to deliver the message. As Master Zhong spoke, he actually felt like he was itching for a fight. There was always a kind of anticipation that the world was about to change. Qin Yining exhorted again, you have to be careful. It's not a small matter for Prince Ning to lead troops to clean up the Emperor's subordinates. The city is too chaotic today. You have to watch your family's door closely. There will always be people who take advantage of the chaos to cause trouble. In these troubled times, you have to be on guard. Upon hearing this, Master Zhong trembled. He hurriedly nodded and said, thank you, Master, for reminding me. I was so excited that I forgot about the door. I'll go arrange it later. That's good. When you see my grandmother, tell her to pay more attention to the exits near the Chow family's residence. I'm guessing that a family like the Chow family will definitely leave some secret escape routes just in case. As long as it's a secret passage, the exit must be at a place that won't arouse suspicion but won't be too far away. However, my grandmother is very resourceful. She'll think of it even without my reminder. In addition, Master Zhong also has to tell my grandmother to evacuate quickly after taking revenge. Don't let down your guard just because you've taken your revenge. Yes, Master, don't worry. I'll definitely pass on your message. Qin Yining did what he had to do. After thinking for a while, he got up and bid farewell. After leaving the Zhong family's residence, Mu Jinghu asked, are we going to watch the show? Watch the show? Qin Yining smiled and said, my status is special. Although I want to watch the show, I have to avoid this kind of occasion. Mu Jinghu frowned regretfully. It's a pity. I've never seen such a rare occasion like cleaning up the Emperor's concubines. Qin Yining couldn't help but laugh at his childish words. It was hard to imagine that someone like Pang Xiao would have such a simple-minded and slow-witted friend. Because he had to protect Qin Yining, Mu Jinghu naturally couldn't watch the show alone. Thus, he escorted him back to the Marquis's residence. Meanwhile, in the palace, the Empress sat trembling in the Emperor's arms. Her tears had soaked the Emperor's shoulders. Your Majesty, Qinxia will stay here. Please leave quickly. Ning Wang is obviously coveting the throne with ill intentions. Qinxia will stay here to deal with him. Please think of a way to hide quickly. What are you saying? How can Jin leave you behind and leave first? The Emperor hugged the Empress, and their cheeks were pressed against each other. At this moment, the sounds of fighting outside the hall were getting closer and closer. Ning Wang's rough voice roared, Imperial brother, hand over that slut and Qinxia. Qinxia will not touch you. Qinxia must give the world an explanation today. P.S. Dearest, I'm very sorry for the delay in updating because of family matters. There are 2 more updates tonight. Stupid You is going to murder the Demon Empress. Why, everyone? For the latest novel updates, please visit the website. Chapter 221. How could the Emperor have thought that Ning Wang, who had been respectful to him on the platform, would rebel after getting military power? The Emperor really had thoughts of killing Ning Wang. It was a pity that there were only a limited number of guards and imperial guards in the imperial city. Most of these people were the sons of officials who had come for temporary positions. If they competed in battle, they were not a match for regular soldiers. Also, Ning Wang might not be good at other things, but he was good at fighting. The Emperor had never thought that there would be a day when he would be forced into such a situation. He stood angrily and pressed the Empress' shoulders to have her sit on the round chair. He said seriously, you will sit here today. Jin will protect you from here. Jin is the true dragon, the son of heaven. How can I not protect a little girl like you? Jin wants to see, with Jin here, who dares to touch you. The Empress' tears ruined her makeup. Her hands trembled in fear. She knew that the only person she could rely on now was the Emperor. If Ningguang still had feelings of respect for the Emperor, maybe she would have a chance to live. Otherwise, with her experience with Ningguang that day, the Empress could not think of a reason why Ningguang would let her go. Emperor, Qinxie is not afraid. As long as Emperor is willing to take Qinxie, Qinxie is willing to be with you forever. The Empress looked pitifully at the Emperor. Those teary eyes and gentle words aroused the Emperor's desire to protect her like never before. At this time, the door to the hall was pushed open. Ningguang slowly walked in with a sword in his hand. Behind him were the soldiers guarding the city. Their gazes were fierce, and their bodies were covered in blood. They looked like they wanted to skin the Empress and tear her bones apart. The Emperor frowned and spread his arms in front of the Empress to protect her. He said, Ningguang, what do you want to do? Imperial brother. Ningguang raised his sword in a bow. The blood on the tip of the sword fell and left a brown mark on the red carpet. The Emperor had lived like a prince for many years. When had he ever seen a scene like this? Ningguang and the soldiers behind him were covered in the smell of blood. Each of them looked like they were going to eat someone. Looking at Ningguang's serious gaze, the Emperor's heart jumped, and he almost peed in his pants. Imperial brother used to be diligent and sincere, and love the people as if they were your own children. Your brilliance back then has been engraved in the hearts of the subjects of the world. You are also the Emperor that I respect the most in my heart. You were originally a virtuous subject far away from the villain. You could have created a flourishing era, but who knew that since Imperial brother got this bitch, you changed? Have I changed? Or do you want to sit in this position? Although the Emperor was afraid, he was more angry. How could his authority be trampled on like this? In my opinion, you've become more and more ambitious over the years. Prince Ning raised his eyebrows and looked at the Emperor. His eyes flashed with hurt. Imperial brother feared the military power in my hands, so I handed it over. Imperial brother didn't want me to participate in the imperial court, so I became an idle Wang Yi. The heavens and the earth can bear witness to Chundi's loyalty to Imperial brother. Imperial brother, I'm sure you're well aware of my sincerity towards you. Otherwise, why would Imperial brother tolerate me until today? What I regret the most now is that I allowed you to live until today. The Emperor angrily flipped over the square table, and the teacups and tray fell to the ground with broken porcelain. Forget it. Prince Ning let out a long sigh and put away the thought of reasoning with the Emperor. His eyes turned firm, and he said coldly, since Imperial brother thinks of Chundi like this, Chundi has no other choice. Since I've done it, I won't regret it. To tell Imperial brother the truth, Chundi brought 10,000 brothers today and has already surrounded the Imperial Palace. Do you know what the Imperial guards on the way here said when they heard that Chundi was here to kill that bitch? Prince Ning slowly walked towards the Empress. The Empress stood up and hid behind the Emperor. The Emperor protected the Empress and retreated all the way. Prince Ning laughed mockingly. When they heard that Chundi was here to kill her, everyone clapped their hands and cheered. Most people happily made way. Otherwise, how could Chundi fight his way in so quickly? Ha! The Empress trembled in fear at Prince Ning's low and hearty laughter. She screamed, "You traitor! You will die a horrible death." It doesn't matter. Prince Ning laughed out loud. The day this king joined the imperial family, he knew that he would definitely not die of old age. It doesn't matter if he dies from the throne or from a scheme. But you bitch, you're definitely not going to die a good death. Because this king will not let you have a good time. Emperor, look at him. He has the intention to rebel against his superiors. The Empress hugged the Emperor's waist and buried her face in the Emperor's chest. She cried and trembled all over. It was unknown whether she was angry or scared. Prince Ning was not angry when he heard this. He only smiled and said, "Imperial brother, the throne and this woman, choose one." Imperial brother, make a choice. The Empress looked at Prince Ning in shock. Did he really come here just to kill her? The emperor was also very surprised. He and the empress had been husband and wife for many years. He had the same idea as the empress. Just now, when he saw Prince Ning coming aggressively, the emperor had already lost hope for the future. Although he was tough on the surface, he was thinking about how to save his life. Who would have thought that Prince Ning would ask him to choose between the throne and the empress? The emperor lowered his head and stared at the empress. The empress trembled even more. Her arms tightly held the emperor's waist. Emperor, Chun Xie doesn't want to leave you. Chun Xie doesn't want to leave you. Prince Ning saw that the empress was still so seductive at this time and laughed coldly. Now it's not up to you to decide. Imperial brother, what do you say? The emperor gulped. What if I don't choose? Don't choose? It seems that Imperial brother still doesn't understand the situation. Prince Ning paced back and forth in front of the emperor. Let me put it this way. Either you hand over this woman, and I will continue to be the emperor, or you can ascend to heaven with her. Chun Xie is very willing to send the two of you on your way. You! The emperor pointed a trembling finger at Prince Ning. Don't try to fool me. Will you let me continue to be the emperor? Aren't you afraid that I will punish you after this? Prince Ning raised his eyebrows. It was as if he was provoking and confident. If Imperial brother can give up on her, then you will naturally have a chance to punish me. How about it? Do you want this chance? The empress shook her head and shook her tears. Emperor, Chun Xie doesn't want to. Chun Xie can't die. Chun Xie will always be with Emperor. Furthermore, Chun Xie's mother's family has contributed greatly to the court. You can't. Euro. The emperor lovingly patted the empress' head. With his other hand, he pried the empress' arm away from his waist. Euro, I know that you are sincere towards me. That means that you don't want to see Dian fall into chaos and the country fall, right? The empress' eyes widened and her heart turned cold. Tears silently flowed down her cheeks. Emperor, you don't want Chun Xie anymore? I will remember your kindness. The emperor couldn't bear it and his eyes turned red. But I am the emperor. Although I love you, I still have to protect the court. I can only do this. No. Emperor, you are very good to Chun Xie. You said that Chun Xie is the goddess in your heart. You love Chun Xie as if she were your own flesh and blood. Now that you can keep Chun Xie, why don't you fight for it? Chapter 222. When the empress heard the emperor say this, her mind buzzed. She fell to the ground in despair and stared straight ahead. She even forgot to cry. Liar, liar, saying that I have an important life. What kind of judgment is this? Liar. The empress roared angrily, then burst into tears. She got up and was about to hit the pillar. Ning Wang had long been prepared for her move. He pulled her back, neatly dislocated her chin, and with a few crack sounds, twisted her limbs and threw her to the people behind him. The empress screamed in pain, tears and snot flowing. Because her mouth couldn't close, her saliva dragged to her clothes. Ning Wang smiled and said to the emperor, Imperial brother, it's getting late. Do you want to go outside with me to see what the people are doing? The emperor didn't dare to look at Ning Wang at all. At this time, he was afraid and angry. Looking at the empress, he didn't know how Ning Wang would deal with her. The emperor's tears also flowed down. When Ning Wang saw that he didn't speak, he pretended that this imperial brother didn't exist. He turned around and said, Take her away. Stuff all the holes in her body with oilcloth. Use hemp rope to wrap her in 2 layers. Then soak her in the oil tank. Announce to the whole city that this king will show everyone a good show today. Everyone will be happy to see human oil and wax in front of the noon gate. Ha! At the end, Ning Wang was already laughing and casually ordered, Go and tell the families that have been persecuted the most by this slut. Today, this king will use the demon empress to light human oil and wax. Leave an empty space for them in the front row. Tell them to come early and not wait. Yes, the soldiers had long hated the demon empress for causing chaos in the country. They didn't feel that such torture was inappropriate. Instead, they were looking forward to it. As for the demon empress, when she heard the words human oil and wax, she was so scared that she fainted. The emperor grabbed Ning Wang. Ning Wang, killing people is just a nod of the head. If you still remember the friendship between us, give her a quick death. She is just a weak woman. Weak woman? When she steamed living people and put them in oil, I didn't see her weak, nor did I see her sympathize with anyone. Imperial brother, in my opinion, you should think about how to deal with me in the future and avenge your empress. After saying that, King Ning casually cupped his hands, turned around, and left. The emperor was so angry that his chest hurt. He pointed at Ning Wang and trembled for a while. In the end, he couldn't take it anymore and fainted on the ground. Ning Wang walked out of the palace gates and ordered people to tie up the empress and soak her in a vat of oil. He ordered 3,000 people to guard the gates and then led the remaining 7,000 people to the Chao manor. When Prince Ning arrived, the Chao family was in a state of chaos. The servants were running for their lives while carrying their master's vases and paper money. The entire Chao family was in a mess. Ning Wang rushed in with his men with swords in their hands. He didn't ask any questions. As long as it was someone from the Chao clan, regardless of whether it was a master or a servant, he would kill them on sight. For a moment, the entire Chao clan was plunged into a sea of blood. There were also people who said that they had never done anything bad and that they were just servants of the Chao family. Ning Wang sneered and stabbed his sword into the man's chest. There is no good person in the Chao Bingzhong family. Have you not bullied others with your power? This king is enforcing justice on behalf of the heavens today. He will take care of you, scum. He turned around and shouted, "Kill for this king. Don't let a single one go." Yes. The soldiers who came with him were in a killing frenzy. During this time, some people put away valuables in their pockets. Ning Wang turned a blind eye and ignored them. As a result, the soldiers were even more motivated to kill, and the entire Chao clan was plundered. This time, they killed a total of 600 masters and servants. Ning Wang carefully checked the corpses. He killed Chao Guozhang's son, daughter-in-law, grandson, granddaughter-in-law, and so on. The only regret was that Chao Guozhang wasn't at home. Ning Wang ordered people to carefully investigate all the rooms in the Chao clan. Finally, they found a secret door behind the bookshelf in the study in the inner courtyard. After opening the secret door, Ning Wang led people in with torches. When they saw the sun again, they were in a woodshed in the backyard of a manor in the outer city. Ning Wang and the soldiers who came with him came out of the tunnel. They looked left and right before entering the manor. "Wang Yi, there was a fight here 4 hours ago. There are footprints and bloodstains on the ground, but no one else was seen." Ning Wang snorted coldly. He gritted his teeth and said, "That old bastard." I'm afraid he immediately escaped with the money when he heard the news. He didn't even care about his own family. What a joke. The soldiers also despised Chao Guozhang's actions. They discussed for a while. Then the leader asked, "Wang Yi, what do we do now?" "Go back." Ning Wang said, "It's about time. Let's go out and find horses. If we hurry back, we can still see the excitement." Hearing this, everyone excitedly agreed in unison. Percent Su sure. The sky was dark. The last of the sunset was about to disappear behind the mountains. A high platform had been set up outside the Meridian Gate. There was a wooden cross on top of it. Someone fished out a woman from a large vat below the platform. Her mouth was stuffed, and her hair was disheveled. Her entire body was wrapped in hemp rope and soaked in oil. Ning Wang held the sword at his waist. He stood on the high platform and faced the crowd in front of him. He said loudly, "Today I, Yuqi Jinming, led the soldiers to capture the demon empress who caused chaos and exterminated the demon empress's entire family. From today onwards, there will be no more demons who cause chaos by the emperor's side." Good, good, good. The well-trained soldiers below the platform cheered loudly. The common people also cheered. As he spoke, someone tied the empress, who was wrapped in hemp rope, upside down on the wooden frame. Prince Ning took a torch from a guard beside him and slowly walked towards the empress. The empress was almost suffocated by the smell of oil on her body. Now, her head was on the ground. She looked desperately at Ning Wang's students approaching step by step. Her mouth, which was stuffed with rags, made a woo-woo sound as she begged for mercy. Ning Wang coldly said, The demon empress brought disaster to the country and the people. She killed loyal and good people. Not only did she charm the emperor, but she also persecuted Imperial Physician Tang's family. Imperial Physician Tang's entire family was killed. She also made the emperor listen to slanderous words. She even exterminated the Sun family of Ding General Manor. In order to get rid of dissidents, she also cooked and fried Imperial concubine Shu and Imperial concubine Xiang alive. This king will not explain them one by one. Today, everyone will see the end of this kind of demon. After he finished speaking, he didn't give anyone a chance to breathe. He put the torch close to the empress's feet that were wrapped in hemp rope. The hemp rope soaked in oil ignited with a whoosh. From afar, it really looked like a candle being lit. The empress screamed in pain and kept twisting and struggling. But her whole body was tied up. Her struggle was useless. She could only endure the burning pain and despair from her feet. Soon, she fainted from the pain. Ning Wang would be considerate and pour a ladle of water to wake her up. The fire on her feet would also go out, but it didn't matter. Ning Wang would reignite it himself. After several tosses and turns, the demon empress only burned to her calf. She never woke up again. She should have died of pain. But Ning Wang's hands still didn't stop. He ordered the guard, burn, continue to burn, for the sake of those who were killed by her. Burn this woman to ashes for this king. Don't leave any dregs. Yes, the fire of the human oil candle was sometimes bright and sometimes dark, lighting up the darkness in front of the Meridian Gate. The people were scared at first, and then they cheered. In the crowd, Mu Jinghu forcibly woke up Chao Guizhong, who fainted in fright for the 7th time. Qin Yining and the members of the Sun clan supported Duchess Ding on both sides. Seeing that half of the demon empress was burned, the group of people squeezed out of the crowd and went to the house closest to this place. This was a new property recently purchased by Qin Yining. The whole family had already moved away, leaving only an empty house with 2 entrances. After entering the door, they saw their aunt, cousin-in-law, and other womenfolk of the Sun clan. There were also 4 strange men in the yard. Seeing this situation, the members of the Sun clan were a little nervous. Qin Yining patted the Sun clan's hand comfortingly and ordered Ji Yun to follow the Sun clan carefully. He helped Duchess Ding to an empty seat in the middle of the yard and sat down. Mu Jinghu threw Chao Guizhong, who had his acupoint sealed and was like a piece of wood, to the ground. Duchess Ding smiled at Qin Yining. Sister Yi, thank you very much this time. If you hadn't informed us in time, we wouldn't have caught this old man. Grandmother, please don't say that. Qin Yining smiled shyly. In the past, I was incompetent and couldn't help you. Now I have a chance to avenge my family. How can I miss such a good opportunity? Duchess Ding nodded emotionally and sighed. At that time, I forced you to be the leader of the Qingtian Alliance. It was my fault. No, I know your thoughts, grandmother. You didn't really hurt me. Besides, it's over. There's no need to mention it again. Although she said that, Duchess Ding still felt that she was not qualified to be a grandmother when she thought of how she once had that kind of thoughts about Qin Yining. But Qin Yining used herself as a hostage to escort her away at the critical moment. 5th cousin-in-law and 1st aunt had already rushed up to punch and kick Chao Guizhong at this time. 2nd aunt was so angry that she directly bit him with her teeth. Even when her mouth was full of blood, she still whimpered and refused to let go. She could finally avenge the wrongful death of the male servants of the Sun clan. Although Chao Guizhong was in pain, he could only make a muffled groan from his throat. He couldn't move because his acupoints were sealed, so he could only endure it. Duchess Ding stood up. The 4 men beside her immediately followed. They stared angrily at Chao Guizhong and asked, "Leader, how do you think we should deal with this old man?" Duchess Ding smiled slightly, stepped on Chao Guizhong's face, and rubbed it a few times. Then she looked at Qin Yining and said, "Sister Yi, how do you think we should deal with him?" Chapter 223. Qin Yining had a sharp mind. She knew that her grandmother wanted to test her family Qin's attitude. She didn't want her father to be misunderstood. She also didn't want her father to be blamed for what he had done in secret. For today, All of us have put in so much effort. Today, we can finally avenge our grievances and avenge our wrongs. My father said that only by getting revenge can we continue to live in peace. Our family is like this, and so is the Sun family. Fortunately, the heavens have eyes. Evil people don't have good karma. When Chao Guozhang heard this, he suddenly glared at Qin Yining. The murderous glint in his eyes looked as if he wanted to stab Qin Yining a few times. Qin Yining wasn't afraid at all. As if he was comforting Chao Guozhang, he said with a smile, "Don't worry. Your family is all dead now. You won't be lonely in hell." Chao Guozhang's eyes were about to split open. Blood seeped out of the corner of his mouth. Qin Yining squatted in front of Chao Guozhang. "Did you escape through the secret passage after knowing that Prince Ning had entered the city? When you escaped, didn't you already know that your family was doomed?" TSK, TSK. You're really a man. A real man. Those who achieve great things are ruthless and merciless. In fact, if you had told your family to escape together, perhaps some of them could have escaped while the city was in chaos. Your Chao family wouldn't have been cut off. Qin Yining grabbed a handful of soil from the ground and sprinkled it on Chao Guozhang's eyes. Chao Guozhang immediately closed his eyes in pain. "It's a pity that you were too selfish. Therefore, your Chao family can only be uprooted now. Don't worry, your death definitely won't be as comfortable as Chao Yuro's. You can consider your father-daughter relationship as complete. Oh, right, there's one more thing I want to tell you." At this point, Qin Yining lowered his body. His smiling voice penetrated Chao Guozhang's eardrums. "Do you know what your biggest mistake was? You probably don't know that the invitation and coral that Prince Ning gave you are from our family, right?" Hearing this, Chao Guozhang's eyes suddenly widened. He no longer cared about the sand. Squinting his eyes, he glared fiercely at Qin Yining through a layer of tears. He let out a low growl like a trapped beast. Qin Yining laughed heartily. "That's why, with a brain like yours, don't even think about trying to outsmart my father. Do you think you can use the corruption case of the Ministry of Revenue to suppress our family? At first I thought so too. But when I found my father's beloved Yin Jinxing's authentic work in his study, I thought about your love for calligraphy and connected it to the fact that Ning Wang suddenly went to your door to express his goodwill. I guessed that this would happen. Chao Bingzhong, you didn't die in vain." Hoo-hoo. The person whose acupoints were sealed could not speak, nor could his body move. Only his throat could let out a series of soundless roars. Chao Guozhang understood, but it was too late. He was too confident in himself and underestimated the existence of Wise Pan. He forgot that Wise Pan An's wisdom was not undeserved. It was too late. Everything was too late. When everyone heard Qin Yining's words, although they did not know what had happened, they knew that Chao Guozhang had fallen into Qin Huaiyuan's trap. At this point, everyone no longer doubted Qin Huaiyuan, only gratitude. Beat him to death! Beat him to death! The womenfolk could no longer hold back. They swarmed forward, punching and kicking Chao Guozhang, who was frozen on the ground. They even used their teeth to viciously bite his flesh. They bit until blood spurted out, but they were unwilling to let go. Eldest Aunt simply grabbed Chao Guozhang's hair and viciously slammed him to the ground. "You bastard! You'll die a horrible death! A horrible death! Give me back my husband's life! Give me back Brother Ming's life!" The Sun clan found a door bolt and viciously slammed it on his legs and body. He still couldn't forget the day when the Sun clan's property was confiscated. He had said goodbye to his father and brother in front of Duke Dinghua's mansion. Since then, the destruction of her family had become the cause of all her misfortune. The death of her father and brother had left her with no one to rely on. It had become a nightmare for her to wake up crying countless nights. She had no place to vent her hatred for a long time. Today, she finally found an outlet to vent. All the womenfolk surrounded Chao Guozhang. Even after beating him to death, they were still angrily beating Chao Guozhang's body. They wished they could beat him into a pulp. Duchess Ding didn't make a move. She just watched with a smile on her face. Her hands hidden in her sleeves were clenched tightly. Her fingernails scratched the skin of her palms, and she didn't even notice it. Looking at the blood spreading on the ground, the resentment in her heart finally dissipated slowly and turned into disappointment. Sister E, you don't know that the purpose of us living these days is to take revenge. Duchess Ding turned around, took Qin Yining's hand, and walked back. The four strange men followed closely behind. Seeing this, Mu Jinghu also followed Qin Yining. Duchess Ding continued, now that I have taken revenge, my heart seems to be empty all of a sudden. I've gritted my teeth and endured these days. I suddenly don't know how to live the rest of my life. In the future, I naturally have to find a quiet place with my aunts and sisters-in-law and live the rest of my life happily. If I can live an ordinary life, occasionally think of my grandfather, uncle, and cousins, and see the world that they didn't have time to see, then I won't have wasted my life. Duchess Ding stopped when she heard this. She took Qin Yining's hand and held it in her hand. You're right. Now that I have taken revenge, I shouldn't continue to cling to hatred. The dead are gone. No matter how unwilling I am, I can only feel frustrated. The only thing I could do while I'm alive is to live on. That's right. Qin Yining smiled. Duchess Ding looked at Qin Yining's clear eyes and said with a smile, then, Sister E, I'll give you the Qingtian alliance in the future, okay? Qin Yining was stunned when he heard this. The four men behind Duchess Ding were also stunned. Duchess Ding turned around to look at the four people and said with a smile, at that time, I chose the Qingtian alliance. First, it was because our Ding family's appeal could gather more like-minded people. Second, it was also a little bit of my intention. I hope to use the power of the Qingtian alliance to take revenge. Most of the people in the alliance want to overthrow the tyrannical government and take revenge. Leader, the tall man in his early 30s sighed and said, we understand what you mean. But Miss Qin is still the daughter of the Marquis of Anping's mansion. Her father is in charge, but we are thieves. My granddaughter is resourceful and has enough brains to lead everyone on the right path. Moreover, the original intention of our Qingtian alliance is to return justice to the people of the world and for the people to live and work in peace and contentment. Everyone knows the character of the Marquis of Anping of the Qin clan. Our original intention does not conflict with the way the Qin clan does things. Chapter 2:24. Speaking of Qin Huayuan's character, the four people had to be convinced and said, Marquis Anping's character is indeed praiseworthy. Many people change their nature when they become officials, but Marquis Anping is indifferent. For many years, he has been so upright and loves the people as his children. Moreover, Marquis Anping's wisdom is indeed not comparable to ordinary people. If their leader had a father who had connections in the imperial court, they could have a clearer grasp of the direction of action, which was really a good thing. Qin Yining was naturally happy that her father was praised. But the premise was that her grandmother didn't give her such a big mess like the Qingtian alliance. Grandmother, although I have some cleverness, I haven't seen much of the world. If you want me to be the leader of the Qingtian alliance, it's really too much. What's more, there are many people in the Qingtian alliance. Even those who are officials in the imperial court have different personalities. I'm just a little girl. How can I manage so many strangers? How can I have the ability to control the Qingtian alliance? Don't make things difficult for your granddaughter. I know your concerns. In fact, I also have something to tell you. Hearing this, Duchess Ding turned to the four men and continued, the power of our Qingtian alliance shouldn't continue to grow. We shouldn't take in more people. The four people were a little surprised when they heard this. When there are more people, it's inevitable that their hearts are not united. Our original purpose was to gather a group of ambitious people together. Once there are people like Guozhang Chao and the Demon Empress, if the imperial family doesn't take action, we can take action. When the world is peaceful, we will serve the people. If we see injustice on the road, we can also raise our arms and call for help. However, there are too many people in our alliance now. It's inevitable that a group of people will sneak in and fish in troubled waters. It's inevitable that no one will have greater ambitions. That will be incompatible with our original intention of fighting injustice for the people. Leaders' words are reasonable, but the Zhou dynasty's army is outside the city. I'm afraid it's not appropriate to reduce the number of people in the alliance at this time. The four people all frowned. Duchess Ding smiled. In this world, it doesn't matter who is in charge. As long as the people can live a peaceful life in the future, it's enough. I used to think that the Dian dynasty was ruled by the Yuchi family. But everyone, take a look. What has become of the Yuchi family's world? Therefore, in my opinion, it doesn't matter who is the ruler of the world. As long as the ruler is virtuous and can bring long-term stability to the people, then the change of the imperial court doesn't matter. Duchess Ding's words could be said to be treacherous. However, none of the people present were fools who were blindly loyal. After thinking about it carefully, they all understood. The leader of the group laughed and said, "Alliance Master is indeed knowledgeable. We understand what you mean. Now that the Demon Empress has been burned, and the Chao clan, which had brought calamity to the country and its people, has been exterminated, Ning Wang has become the Grand Marshal. I believe that with the temper of an incapable ruler, he won't be able to cause any waves." Exactly. Another man also said, "I understand what the leader means. At first, we started the uprising for the happiness of the people. Now that the people are finally stable, if we allow our troops to grow stronger, we will definitely become the second existence to disturb the peaceful lives of the people. Therefore, our Qingtian alliance should really take care of it and send a group of people away." Duchess Ding also laughed and said, "You are all smart people. You understand it immediately. I heard that the news from Xihua City a few days ago was false. Pang Zhishi's troops didn't burn, kill, and loot in Xihua City at all. Those who were beheaded and executed were the original corrupt officials of Dian, and the local rich people who were crowned with the titles of Skinning and King of Hell. A lot of the seized money was used for the army's provisions. However, the 100,000 people of the Tiger Army were not stationed in the city to disturb the people at all. Not only did they not loot the people, but the people of the Tiger Army also went to the merchants in the city to buy whatever they needed. For this reason, the business of the shops suddenly increased so many customers, and the business was easy. "Leader, you mean that the Pang family's troops are not so abominable?" one of them said. Qin Yining thought for a moment and said bluntly, "I heard from my father that before the peace talks, Pang Zhishi was ordered by the emperor of the Zhou dynasty to take away the position of the Grand Marshal. It was because the emperor of the Zhou dynasty ordered a massacre in the city, but Pang Zhishi disobeyed the order and refused to kill the civilians. Therefore, the emperor of the Zhou dynasty's plan to anger the emperor with the lives of the people in Xihua City didn't succeed." Duchess Ding thought for a moment and said, "So, the emperor of the Zhou dynasty later ordered to kill our captives because of this matter?" Qin Yining nodded. "I won't help little Wang Yi because I am familiar with him, but he did disobey the order to not kill the civilians." In that case, the one surnamed Pang is not bad." The four people around them discussed. They looked at each other and laughed. Therefore, rumors can't be believed completely. Pang Zhishi is Pang Zhongjing's son. Even if Pang Zhongjing was the protector general of Beiji State, we can't go against our conscience and say that he is a bad person. For example, you and I are also notorious in Jianghu. People say that we are bandits who eat human flesh and drink human blood, and that we are evildoers who even beggars have to peel off a layer of skin when they meet. However, we know best what we have done. Yes, the Dog Emperor also said that we, the Qingtian Alliance, are rebels, but which one of the things we have done is not righteous? The four people looked at each other and laughed. Qin Yining was infected by their heroic spirit and couldn't help laughing. Duchess Ding took Qin Yining's hand and said, "I just want to tell you that the position of the alliance leader of the Qingtian Alliance will be handed over to you in the future. You have to choose the right path. The alliance members all have their own livelihoods and don't need the alliance's money to support them. Everyone is gathered together not for profit, but for the sake of serving the country. When there's nothing to do, everyone lives their own lives, but when there's trouble, everyone is a hero who's willing to risk their lives. So, Sister E, you mustn't let the alliance members' sincerity go to waste." Qin Yining was a little helpless. In this way, wouldn't she be the alliance leader? However, in these troubled times, With such a group of people, sometimes she could do things without restraint. Duchess Ding turned to introduce the four people. Sister E, come and get to know them. These four are the four hall leaders of the Qingtian Alliance. This is Hero Liao. Everyone in Jianghu knows that his Liao family saber technique is the best in the world. The leader, a simple and honest-looking man in his 30s, smiled and cupped his hands to Qin Yining. I'm Liao Zhibing. Qin Yining hurriedly returned the greeting. Hero Liao is too polite. These two are the Zhao brothers. They used to be heroes on Red Top Mountain. When they heard that the emperor was heartless, they came down the mountain and joined the Qingtian Alliance. Miss Qin. The Zhao brothers also cupped their hands. I'm Zhao Inua. This is my brother Zhao Wanjin. Qin Yining also hurriedly returned the greeting. The last one was the youngest and also the most delicate among the four. He was only 24 or 25 years old. Duchess Ding smiled and said, "This is Mr. Qiao Shangfei. His courtesy name is Yongming. He is a steady and resourceful person. He was the 6th Jinshi in the 2nd year of the imperial exam. He is a talented and ambitious person. However, he was burdened by his family's affairs and couldn't stand the actions of the incapable emperor, so he refused to become an official. If you don't understand anything in the future, you can ask Mr. Qiao." I don't dare. I don't dare. Qiao Shangfei hurriedly cupped his hands. He was very polite and convinced by Duchess Ding. Qin Yining bowed to Qiao Shangfei. He had a better understanding of the crouching tigers and hidden dragons in the Qingtian Alliance. Among these four hall masters, one of them was a hero who made Mu Jinghu look at him with admiration when he mentioned his name. Two of them had beards that looked like bandits, and the last one was actually a Jinshi. There weren't that many Jinshi at such a young age. After Duchess Ding introduced them to each other, she turned around and bowed to the four people. During this period of time, I'm indebted to all of you for not abandoning me. As a woman, I've been bossing you guys around. However, since we hit it off and created the Qingtian Alliance, we can't let down the name of the Qingtian Alliance. The Alliance Master is too polite. The Alliance Master is right. We have always been upright and upright in our actions. We definitely can't do anything that goes against our conscience. In that case, please take care of my granddaughter in the future. Duchess Ding bowed again. The four people looked at each other. Without saying anything else, they cupped their hands and bowed to Qin Yining. Zhao Wanjin laughed and said, "Sister Qin, it's fate that we met here today. Since you've become the leader, then we'll be brothers and sisters who share blessings and misfortunes in the future. I, Zhao Wanjin, am a rough man. I don't know how to beat around the bush. I only know that we're doing this for the good of the common people. If you have any instructions in the future, just say it." Zhao Inu also smiled and said, "Alliance Master Qin, please don't mind us. We were born the sons of bandits, so we can only be bandits. We can't recognize many words. We're not as literary as Qiao Yongming. Our words are a little vulgar. Please don't take it to heart. Don't say that. Both of you are forthright people. You're people of my generation. It's a pity that we don't have any wine today. Otherwise, we'd really drink a lot. Although I'm the daughter of a family, I wasn't born in a wealthy family. Don't treat me as a person of noble birth. I'm just an ordinary girl. Just like you, I have some responsibility for the common people. I still have some thoughts." "Well said." Liao Zhibing laughed and said, "Since that's the case, today's matter is settled. The four of us will go back and discuss. If there are any members of the Alliance who have bad conduct or have the intention to leave, we'll disband. Just like the old Alliance Master said, quality is more important than quantity." "Thank you for your trouble, Brother Liao." Qin Yining smiled. "Don't mention it. Compared to Alliance Master Qin, who has to sell her family's property to support the refugees, we're still lacking." After reaching a consensus, they returned to the front yard. Chao Guizhong had already been beaten into a pile of rotten meat. No one cared about the bloodstains on the ground. The womenfolk had already hugged each other and cried. Qin Yining arranged for people to clean up the yard. They wrapped Chao Guizhong's corpse with grass and threw it into the mass grave. Only then did they return to the residence with Ji Yun and Mu Jinghu. The moment they entered, they saw Qi Tai standing guard in the gatehouse. "Fourth young mistress, you're back." The marquee is waiting for you in the study. Chapter 225. The fire had burned down more than half of the family Qin's residence, leaving not a single intact courtyard. Qin Huayuan's study in the outer courtyard was also affected, but the main room and the side room, where the books were kept, were still intact. The broken window lattice in the main room had also been repaired. When Qin Yining entered, Qin Huayan was leaning against the arhut bed by the window, fanning himself with a folding fan and flipping through a book. His relaxed posture was the same as before, making Qin Yining feel as if nothing had happened. "Father, you're back. Come and sit down." Qin Huayan put the book down on the square table and carefully looked at her face, saying, "You've been so busy today and haven't had a moment to rest. How are you feeling?" Qin Yining's complexion was not good, but she was full of energy and her eyes were especially bright. "I'm fine. I'll be fine after I take some medicine and rest. Father, don't worry. I'm still young. As long as I take care of myself, there won't be any major problems." Qin Huayuan nodded and touched her forehead with his big hand. He suddenly asked, "Did the Qing-Tian alliance catch Xiao Bingzhong?" Qin Yining was stunned, then smiled shyly. "Nothing can escape your eyes. They caught him. Grandmother, aunt, and sisters-in-law were all there. They took revenge. Even my mother swung her arm and gave him a good beating. Mother and my grandmother's family are living outside and catching up with each other." Qin Huayuan heard this and nodded. After a moment of silence, he sighed and said, "Xiao Bingzhong deserved to die. It's just that your grandfather's family is pitiful." Qin Yining saw her father like this and couldn't help but feel a little disappointed. She knew that her father truly treated the Sun family as his own. Otherwise, when Sun Yu died, her father wouldn't have personally gone to the Sun family to help preside over the funeral. Later, he wouldn't have secretly supported her in collecting her grandfather's body. In the past, when she wasn't close to her father, she had guessed that her father, who had been immersed in politics for most of his life, must have a heart of stone and a cold heart. Who would have thought that after interacting with him, she would realize that his father was actually a person of flesh and blood. His heart couldn't be any gentler. "Don't be sad." Qin Yining thought for a while, deliberately changed the topic, and asked mischievously, "You have avenged your grandfather's family, and you can get rid of the knot in your heart in the future. Now you'd better think about how to face concubine Xiao, who is deeply in love with you." Qin Huayuan's face reddened at her words. He shook his head and said with a smile, "When did I avenge your grandfather? I was beaten up by Qiao Guozhang." He had no intention of mentioning Qiao Yuqing at all. "You don't have to pretend in front of your daughter. I already know." "Father, you really are the smartest person in the world. That day, you were slandered by Qiao Guozhang for corruption. Our family situation was so serious, but you were able to calm down and size up the situation. You didn't seem to do anything, but the overall situation was under your control. First, the case of corruption broke out, and our family was suppressed to the point that we couldn't fight back. This made the Qiao family even more complacent and let down their guard. Then, I used a scheme to sow discord between Prince Ning and the Qiao family. When you heard the news, you immediately beat them at their own game. In fact, if that day's incident hadn't happened, Prince Ning would have been the best candidate for the Generalissimo. Father just followed the public's will and pushed the boat with the current. Not only did you do a favor to Prince Ning, but you also took advantage of Prince Ning's fiery and upright character to cause a devastating blow to the Qiao family. Now, the Demon Empress and Qiao Guozhang are dead, and there is no one left in the Qiao family. Naturally, you can get rid of the big hat of corruption." The more Qin Yining said, the more she admired her father. She praised, "Father, you have a perfect grasp of all the details. On the way back, I racked my brains to figure out your role in this matter. But all of this is just the result of your casual judgment of the situation." Qin Yining looked at Qin Huayuan. Her almond-shaped eyes were bright and full of admiration for Qin Huayuan. "Father, when can I be as perfect as you?" "You?" When Qin Huayuan heard her words, he knew that Qin Yining had guessed what he had done. He didn't hide it anymore and said with a smile, "When I was your age, I wasn't as smart as you. So, When you reach my age, you will definitely be more powerful. Is that so? Qin Yining was full of yearning for the future. But then she thought about it and shook her head. I don't look forward to that day at all. In the future, I will only rely on you. I don't need to think about anything else. When Qin Huaiyuan saw her shameless look, he didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He said, "We men are born to worry. How can you say that you don't need to think about anything? Father is right. We are really born to worry." Qin Yining thought about what had happened today and sighed again. Then she told Qin Huaiyuan about the Qin Tian alliance. Qin Huaiyuan raised his eyebrows after hearing this. After a while, he nodded. It's good to have such a force that you can use in secret. Father, aren't you surprised at all? It's expected. Your grandmother was eager to take revenge. Now that she has taken her revenge, there's nothing else to worry about. Qin Yining thought about how the women of the Sun family looked today and couldn't help but sigh. That's right. So, what if she has taken revenge? The dead can't be brought back to life. Will our family have a new funeral tomorrow? Yes. I've just discussed it with your second uncle and third uncle. Tomorrow, we will officially bury them. When the assassins tried to assassinate us, they said that they came for you. In the end, none of the masters of the eldest branch came out unscathed. Instead, it was your second uncle and third uncle's families who suffered. Father was originally worried that this matter would leave a knot in the hearts of the family and that they would hate you in the future. But once your plan came out, you quickly took revenge for the entire family. I don't think your family will hold any grudges against you now. Qin Yining nodded. When she thought of the tragic scene that day, her expression became somewhat gloomy. She said, "This matter was indeed caused by the rumors that I spread to protect myself. Even if everyone blames me, I have nothing to say." Father and daughter both fell silent. After a while, Qin Yining said, "That's right. Father, I don't want to pay attention to Qin Huaining in the future. I know that Father loves her. I won't force Father to kill her. Father, don't expect me to treat her well in the future." What? Qin Yining sneered. Although it's human nature to be selfish in a matter of life and death, it's understandable that she wanted to protect herself. But she pushed her sister out. She stared fixedly at Qin Huaiyuan. "Father, do you know how Sixth Sister died?" Sixth Sister shouldn't have died that day. It was Qin Huaining who saw that she was about to be caught, so she pushed Sixth Sister out to block a knife for herself. That knife slashed Sixth Sister's neck, and blood spurted high into the air. The scene from that day replayed before her eyes. Qin Yining's voice was filled with pain. Sixth Sister and Qin Huaining were usually the closest. Every time Qin Huaining caused trouble, Sixth Sister would speak up for her. But Qin Huaining treated her like that. Later, when the assassins said that they came for me, it was also Qin Huaining who pointed me out to the assassins. I couldn't dodge in time and was slashed. When I fell to the ground and had no strength to dodge, Songlan leaned over me and blocked the knife for me. Chapter 226. Qin Huaiyuan was silent for a long time. It's my fault for not teaching her well. It's my fault for not teaching her well. Father, you're too kind. She was born to be that kind of person. It has nothing to do with Father's teachings. Qin Yining stood up and said, Father, I'm starting to feel dizzy. I'll go back to take medicine and rest. There's a funeral tomorrow, so I'll be busy. Qin Huaiyuan nodded repeatedly. He helped Qin Yining up and went to the corridor. He called for Ji Yun to help Qin Yining back to Shuorenjai. He then turned to Mu Jinghu and said politely, Young Master Mu, thank you for your trouble. Uncle, don't be so polite. We're all family. Mu Jinghu cupped his hands and followed Qin Yining and Ji Yun into the second gate. Now that the family Qin situation was different from before, there was no need to consider the issue of men not being allowed to enter the second gate. Mu Jinghu was a highly skilled bodyguard arranged by Pang Xiao. Everyone in the family knew that. With his presence, everyone felt more at ease, so they didn't mind him entering and leaving the inner residence. The next day, the capital, which had been without rain for a long time, began to drizzle. The family Qin's master and servant who had passed away held a grand funeral and were buried on Shui Yun Mountain. On the same day, The emperor claimed that he was old and weak and couldn't bear the pressure of the court. He abdicated the crown prince, the Yuchi-yin, and changed the name of the year to Yuankong. The coronation ceremony would be held in 10 days, and the Ministry of Rites was ordered to speed up the preparations. The retired emperor's extravagant life, as the emperor finally drew to a bloody end. When the imperial edict was issued, the whole country rejoiced. Everyone in the streets and alleys were full of smiles and hope for life. When Ning Wangshui's 10,000 troops left the inner city, the people even lined the streets and cheered. Even the rainwater that drenched them all felt sweet. Some people said that the fall of the fatuous emperor was like the heavens had opened their eyes. After a long drought, there was sweet dew. The next day, the first court meeting of the new emperor's ascension was held. All officials of the 5th rank and above in the capital were present at the Fengtian Gate. Although Qin Huaiyuan no longer had an official position, he was personally brought over by the Yuchi-Yan's most capable subordinate, Eunuch Liu, early in the morning. Furthermore, Eunuch Liu arranged for him to be the head of the civil officials. Therefore, before the emperor arrived, the officials saw Qin Huaiyuan's position and knew that the Chao family had fallen. Moreover, Qin Huaiyuan had always been on the crown prince's side. They didn't expect the emperor to abdicate so quickly. Since the crown prince had ascended the throne, he naturally had to restore the family Qin. His colleagues' attitude toward Qin Huaiyuan was even more fervent than before. His Majesty has arrived. The eunuch's sharp voice reverberated in the empty square. Then, a bright yellow figure slowly walked over and sat on the throne. It was a young and handsome face, which was refreshing at first glance. Seeing the arrival of the new emperor, the officials who were closer to him were all secretly delighted. His Majesty has arrived. Everyone, kowtow and greet him. As soon as the eunuch's voice fell, the officials uniformly knelt 3 times and kowtowed 9 times. Then they shouted "Long live" 3 times. Their voices came from the bottom of their hearts and shook the imperial city a few times. Yuchi-Yin sat up straight, raised his hand, and said, "Everyone, you may rise." "Thank you, His Majesty." When the officials stood still, Yuchi-Yin stood up and stood on the throne with his hands behind his back. He said in a clear voice, "Today is the first time we are hearing politics. We have a few things to announce. First, Chao Bingzhong's evil deeds have already caused the people's resentment to boil. Now that the Chao family has been destroyed by the refugees, we will not pursue the crimes of the Chao family's 9 generations since they have served the court for a few years. His Majesty is wise." The officials all bowed. Yuchi-Yin looked at the officials bowing in the wide square and listened to their voices. He felt a certain emotion as a man for the first time. It was the first time in his life that he was filled with confidence. Today, he had become the most honorable person in the Dian dynasty. The bitter days of being suppressed by his biological father and being schemed against by his stepmother were all over. In the future, with power in his hands, he could wantonly live his life and get whatever he wanted. Thinking of this, Yuchi-Yan's eyes flashed with a satisfied smile. Second, Marquis of Anping, Qin Huaiyuan, has been loyal and devoted for many years. He has worked hard without complaint and has contributed greatly to the stability of the country. We have investigated everything in the past. It was all because Chao Bingzhong was jealous of Qin Huaiyuan's talent and framed him. Qin Huaiyuan will be reinstated as the imperial tutor of the crown prince and the prime minister. As soon as he finished speaking, Yuchi-Yin smiled and looked at Qin Huaiyuan, who was closest to him. He smiled and said, "Imperial tutor Qin." Qin Huaiyuan calmly walked out of his office and bowed confidently. "This official thanks your Majesty for your grace. Your Majesty is wise. Long live your Majesty. Long live your Majesty. Long live your Majesty." The officials kowtowed again. At this time, someone in the crowd reported, "Your Majesty has just ascended to the throne. The country must be established as soon as possible, and the harem must be stable. If the country is established, the people will have no worries. If the harem is stable, the world will be stable." This official agrees. Now that the war situation is tense, This official requests your majesty to strengthen the harem so that the imperial family can continue to have children. The officials were worried that if something happened to the emperor and there was no one to inherit the country, it would lead to a great upheaval. Thus, they suggested that Yuchi Yin immediately strengthen the harem. When Yuchi Yin lived in seclusion, he only had one concubine and a few concubines. These people had no children. As for the matter of the country's foundation, Yuchi Yin had already thought about it and had already made arrangements. Thus, when he heard the officials raise this point, Yuchi Yin said, "My beloved officials have thought of the same thing as Zhen. Now that Zhen has no children, Zhen has decided to adopt an outstanding person from the imperial family to teach and nurture. Zhen sees that Prince Ning's eldest son, Yuchi Jie, is very intelligent and Zhen likes him very much. Zhen is prepared to adopt him as Zhen's eldest son. What do my beloved officials think?" The Yuchi family didn't have many children. Back then, because the Emperor Emeritus didn't have a son, he adopted Prince Ning's eldest son. Later on, when he had a son of his own, he returned the adopted Prince Ning's eldest son to Prince Ning. Yuchi Yin and Prince Ning had always been on good terms. Now that Prince Ning's eldest grandson was adopted as a prince, it wasn't unexpected. All the officials bowed in unison and praised the emperor's wisdom. With a prince, it was time to consider the harem. Yuchi Yan's palms were sweaty, and even his forehead was sweaty. He couldn't help but look at Qin Huaiyuan, who was standing at the head of the table. In his mind, Qin Yining's beautiful face appeared. As for the choice of empress, the emperor's voice trembled with excitement. Zhen has heard that beloved official Qin's eldest daughter has received the Tianjizi's diagnosis. She has an extremely noble and excellent fate. With her existence, can the country be protected? Qin Huaiyuan's heart skipped a beat, but he didn't show any of his emotions on his face. He only bowed in fear and trepidation and said, "Replying to your majesty, the Tianjizi did have such a diagnosis." Yuchi Yan's heart was filled with joy. He opened his mouth and wanted to make Qin Yining the empress. However, Qin Huaiyuan cleverly stopped him from saying anything else. "Your majesty, this official thinks that your majesty has just ascended to the throne, so you should really enrich your harem. Why don't we take advantage of the time before the coronation to hold a selection of outstanding and beautiful women of the right age in the capital? We'll use 10 days to compare them. This way, we won't bury the talents of the young ladies, and it will also enrich your majesty's harem. What does your majesty think?" Although Qin Huaiyuan's words were tactful, he was actually telling Yuchi Yin, "Don't think that you can reach out to any woman you want because you're the emperor. Wouldn't that make you a retired emperor? Your table manners can't be too ugly." However, in his joy, Yuchi Yin didn't understand the deeper meaning of these words. He only thought that perhaps Qin Huaiyuan cared for his daughter and wanted to hold a grand ceremony. Chapter 2:27. When the officials heard this, they immediately felt that the new emperor was able to accept advice and had a refined temperament. Their expectations for the new emperor grew even higher. It was no wonder. With the previous emperor emeritus's incompetence and stubbornness, even if the Yuchi Yin didn't do anything, he would still be able to surpass the incompetent emperor emeritus. As for Qin Huaiyuan, he secretly let out a sigh of relief. Fortunately, he was facing a new emperor and not an incompetent emperor. Otherwise, wouldn't his daughter have no choice but to sit on the emperor's seat? After the court was dismissed, Qin Huaiyuan was invited by the Yuchi Yin to the imperial study. The two of them talked for a long time. During this time, the Yuchi Yin repeatedly inquired about Qin Huaiyuan's intentions and also inquired about the relationship between Qin Yining and Pang Xiao. However, with Qin Huaiyuan's intelligence, he didn't reveal any substantial information after chatting with the Yuchi Yin. Even so, the Yuchi Yin was still beaming with joy and full of confidence. He was in a very good mood. Qin Huaiyuan came out of the palace and couldn't help but shake his head when he got into the carriage. The Yuchi Yin's character was indeed good, but as the emperor, he didn't deserve the throne. Sooner or later, he would suffer a great loss. If it was in the past, he would be filled with loyalty and patriotism. The emperor's words were like an imperial edict. Even if the emperor wanted his daughter's life, he wouldn't say a word even if he was unwilling. However, after experiencing repeated suppression and torture, and personally witnessing the attitude of the imperial family after their home was ransacked, his mentality had changed. He wasn't a saint after all. He just wanted to live with a clear conscience for the people of the world. He wouldn't go against his original intention of becoming an emperor, but he also wanted his daughter to be happy. Even if she became the noblest woman in the world, so what? How many women in the imperial palace would have a good ending? Not to mention that Diane was in turmoil. It was not a good thing for the empress to become the target of public criticism. Just based on his daughter's temperament, if she really became the empress, she would definitely be loyal to the Yuchi Yin, loyal to her husband until death. The Yuchi Yin did not possess strategy and talent, so Qin Yining would have to work hard for the sake of his Yuchi family's rivers and mountains. If things went wrong, it would be strenuous and thankless, and he would be labeled as a hand in charge. As an emperor, it was fine if he was incompetent, but he would definitely be wary of the imperial harem interfering in politics. In the early stages, they might find it novel, or they might feel that Qin Yining was of use to them, so they could tolerate it. But what about after that? If the Dian did not fall, an empress who meddled in politics would sooner or later be disliked by the emperor. If Dian was destroyed, his daughter would also be implicated. His official career could be said to be filled with ups and downs. Only now did he deeply feel that official positions and the like were all empty. The imperial family could take away everything that he had worked hard for half his life just by opening their mouths. He only had this one daughter, and he could not let her lifetime of happiness be ruined. As for Pang Zhishi, although he also had his shortcomings, he was still a brave and intelligent man. He was a man with shoulders and responsibilities. In troubled times, Pang Zhishi's brain was enough to protect Qin Yining. Moreover, Pang Zhishi was a male chauvinist, and he would not allow his daughter to be implicated. Even if he gritted his teeth and endured, he would still support the people behind him. Just based on this point, he was much stronger than the new emperor. The only flaw was that they were enemies. When Qin Huaiyuan thought about the war between the two countries and his daughter's marriage, he felt that the future was bleak. At worst, he would just raise his daughter for the rest of her life. He could not wait to dote on his daughter like a treasure. How could there be a day when she would go to someone else's house to suffer? Just thinking about it made him, as a father, feel suffocated and panicked. Qin Huaiyuan thought about this all the way, and his brows were tightly furrowed. When they arrived at the Marquis's estate, Qin Huaiyuan gave a few instructions to Qi Tai, and as soon as he entered the house, he went straight to the inner residence. When he arrived at the entrance of the Shorn Pavilion, Qin Huaiyuan remembered that not only Qin Yining lived here, but also Miss Ba and Qin Huaining lived here. It was not convenient for him to barge in, so he instructed the servant he had just bought at the entrance, "Go and invite Miss C over." The servant was only 7 or 8 years old. She had only been in the estate for a day and had not learned the rules yet. When she saw Qin Huaiyuan, who was dressed in court robes and had a serious expression, she was so scared that she did not even dare to breathe loudly. She turned around and went inside to reply. Not long after, Qin Yining was helped down the stairs by Bing Tang and Ji Yun. It was the height of summer in July. Qin Huaiyuan was sweating profusely from the heat. Qin Yining, on the other hand, was wearing a light blue robe with a copper-green brocade jacket draped over her shoulders. Her face was pale, and her lips were pale. However, her cheeks were abnormally red. It was obvious that she was ill. "What's wrong with Sister E?" Qin Huaiyuan's brows furrowed. Bing Tang frowned and said, "Mrs. Wound is infected, and she has a fever. She kept saying that she was cold, and she only felt better after taking some medicine." As she supported Qin Yining, she could naturally feel the warmth of her body in her cold hands, which were the opposite of the warmth of her body. Although Qin Yining was sick, her eyes were very bright. She smiled and said, "It's not serious. Isn't it normal to be injured? It's summer right now, so it's different from being injured in the winter. Just let it rest. It's not a big deal." She smiled and walked in front of Qin Huaiyuan. She said, "Father, did you just come back from court? Why don't we go to the pavilion and have some tea?" Qin Huayuan followed her gaze and knew that she was talking about the white stone pavilion next to the lotus pond. It was secluded there, and it was convenient for them to talk. He nodded and said, "Okay." Everyone in the Qin family knew that Qin Huayuan raised his daughter like she was his son. A while ago, Qin Huayuan was idle at home, either reading books or fishing. Most of the time, it was Qin Yining who accompanied him to chat. Therefore, it wasn't strange to see Qin Huayuan taking Qin Yining for a stroll and chat. The two sat down in the pavilion. Ji Yun went to serve tea and took a soft cushion for Qin Yining to sit on. Then, she and Bing Tang retreated outside. Qin Yining asked, "Father, did something happen during the court meetings?" Qin Huayuan first drank 2 bowls of warm green tea. When he felt that his throat wasn't burning as much, he said, "I just ordered Chitai to prepare a carriage for you, as well as the dry food and medicine you'll need for the journey. In a moment, take Bing Tang and Ji Yun with you and ask young Master Mu to escort you. You can leave immediately." A carriage was only used when the journey was long, and it was much more stable and spacious than a carriage. Was her father asking her to go further away? Qin Yining turned pale with fright. "Father, why do you say that? Did something happen at home? Or were you condemned by the new emperor after he ascended the throne?" Qin Huayuan shook his head. "Father wasn't condemned. Instead, I was reinstated." Then, Qin Yining's mind raced, and she vaguely had an absurd guess. Could it be that the new emperor wants me to enter the palace and serve him? Qin Huayuan sighed. Smart. Qin Yining immediately felt a burst of panic and anger. She had already made it clear to Yu Qiyan. Why was he still like this? However, she also knew that whether it was Pang Xiao or Yu Qiyan, they were all people in high positions who were used to giving orders. Men's status was higher than women's, and they were all high and powerful. No woman couldn't be obtained by them. Why would these men, who were at the top of the pyramid, care about a little woman's opinion? Chapter 228. In the past, the Yu Qiyan was the crown prince. Although Qin Yining had unilaterally expressed her thoughts, there was no room for reasoning with the crown prince. Now that the Yu Qiyan was the emperor, his words were even more precious. Whatever he said was the truth. She had feelings for Pang Xiao. Thinking back to his previous domineering ways that she couldn't refuse, she felt sweet. However, she had never had feelings for the Yu Qiyan. To her, the Yu Qiyan's domineering ways were only a burden and only caused her to feel disgusted. Qin Huayuan told Qin Yining about today's court assembly in detail. His Majesty actually wants me to be the empress? Qin Yining's shoulders slumped weakly. She felt that the wound on her shoulder hurt even more. It hurt so much that she frowned. You should leave in a bit. With your intelligence, it won't be difficult for you to find a way to leave the city. If you want to go to the south, go to Nanhai Yanzi. If you want to go to the north to find him, that's also up to you. Qin Yining suddenly raised her head. Father, she didn't expect that her father would be willing to take the risk of defying the emperor for her happiness. With such a benevolent imperial edict, which official wouldn't want to be the emperor's father-in-law? However, her father didn't intend to use her as a tool to change his future. Father, I can't do this. Qin Yining's voice trembled slightly, but a smile bloomed on her face. It's easy for me to leave, but if I leave, what will you do? What about our family? You don't have to worry about that. His Majesty has just ascended to the throne, and the situation is so tense right now. He still needs to rely on me for many things. He won't do anything to me, nor will he do anything to our family. You should leave quickly. I naturally have a way to deal with the aftermath. Qin Yining pursed her lips and shook her head. I can't leave. If you don't leave, you'll have to participate in the selection. With your appearance, background, and His Majesty's affection for you, you'll definitely be chosen. Aren't you, and little Wang Yi? Qin Huayan didn't want to say it directly, so he coughed and said, Father knows that you don't covet glory, splendor, wealth, and you don't care about being the empress. Our family Qin doesn't need you to be the empress. You just need to live your own life and live happily for the rest of your life. As for the rest, I have my ways. Qin Yining was moved to tears, but he was even more determined not to leave. Father has been an official all his life, and has never been the subject of ridicule. It doesn't make sense for this to happen to your daughter. Disobeying the imperial edict and deceiving the monarch is a major crime. The Yuchi family's people all turn hostile and refuse to recognize people. The new emperor is relying on you now, but in the future, it's hard to guarantee that he won't bring up old scores. When that time comes, what will you and our family do? What's more, it's a small matter for your daughter to run away for a while. Could it be that you want to run away for the rest of your life just to avoid marrying the emperor? I didn't break the law, and I'm not a fugitive. Why should I escape when someone else did it? He wants me to be the empress. That's a good idea, but it depends on whether I'm willing to do it or not. Sister E. Qin Huayan's letter trembled, and he suddenly thought of something. He said with a serious expression, "Don't think that you can agree to go to the selection of consorts now and then escape by committing suicide after you've been chosen. Your body, hair, and skin are all given to you by your parents. If you commit suicide, you're being unfilial." Father, what are you thinking? Qin Yining was both moved and amused. If I commit suicide, then that's a serious crime. Wouldn't I offend the emperor even more? That's not in line with my original intentions. Qin Huayuan thought about it and found that it was true. He couldn't help but laugh and shake his head. I'm the one who's thinking wrong. Father is extremely intelligent. You're just worried and confused. Father, don't express your opinion on this matter. You can neither support nor oppose it. As for the rest, leave it to me to handle. Qin Huayuan nodded. Forget it. I'll leave it to you, little girl, to deal with it yourself. But don't worry whether you want to be the empress or not. I have the ability to support you. You just have to do whatever you want. Yes, I won't poke a hole in the sky. Father, although you're very capable, I don't want you to tire yourself out too much, right? The father and daughter looked at each other and laughed. Qin Yining thought about it and said, Father, if you have a way, please spread the news to Shihua City that the emperor wants to make me the empress as much as possible. Qin Huayuan raised his eyebrows. Do you trust Peng Zhishi that much? When it comes to matters of the heart, both parties must be willing. If he wants to, he'll naturally think of a way. I also believe that he has the ability. I'll act according to the circumstances. Qin Yining stood up. Her face was still pale, but her eyes were shining brightly. If an ox doesn't drink water, do you want me to force it? If I don't want to, no one can force me. Qin Huayuan couldn't help but laugh at his daughter's intelligence and confidence. His originally tense mood also relaxed a lot. After he finished speaking, he urged Qin Yining to rest. Unexpectedly, at this moment, there was a sudden rush of footsteps outside. Master Marquis, Master Marquis. Chitai walked over quickly and saluted. Chief Steward Liu is here. He said that he's here to bring forth Miss into the palace. Qin Yining raised her eyebrows. The people in the palace are doing their best. The emperor said that the empress and consort will be conferred during the coronation ceremony in 10 days, so they can only immediately bring the women of suitable age who are likely to participate in the selection into the palace and temporarily train them. Silly girl, this is the best time for the emperor to win over the courtiers. As long as the women are chosen by the emperor to enter the palace, they won't be rejected, regardless of appearance or character. I'm afraid that the emperor will only look at their family background and confer them according to the emperor's needs. Qin Yining understood as soon as he thought about it. The country was in chaos, and the new emperor's foundation was unstable. Other than Qin Huayuan and Prince Ning, he naturally wanted to win over the other courtiers, and the best way to win them over was through marriage. Thinking about it this way, the emperor's harem was clearly a small court. Who the emperor favored and who he didn't favor was also a reflection of the court's political affairs. She used to think that marriage was nothing more than a matter of parents and matchmakers. It didn't matter who she married. But ever since she met Peng Xiao, this idea weakened day by day. Now, she already felt that if it was an emotionless marriage, then she would rather not have it. She knew that she was being emotional and not rational enough. But she could make do with other things, but she couldn't make do with this. At this time, Qin Yining was even more disgusted with the emperor's harem. So what if she was the empress? She had to live with an emotionless man, and there were so many women in the middle. She also had to meddle in the court's affairs, and she had no choice but to do so. If she had to live like this for the rest of her life, then she might as well die early and be reincarnated, so that she wouldn't be so tired. Qin Yining had already followed Qin Huaiyuan to the front courtyard. Eunuch Lu, who was next to Yu Yin, was waiting with a mama and several palace servants. Qin Yining was also very familiar with the mama. It was Mama Zhan who had taught her the rules. When Qin Yining saw Mama Zhan, she smiled and nodded to greet her. Mama Zhan also smiled and greeted her back. Eunuch Lu was full of smiles as he walked over in an extremely courteous manner. He first bowed to Qin Huaiyuan, then turned to greet Qin Yining. Qin Yining curtsied and returned the greeting. Greetings, Eunuch Lu. Io. Young lady Qin, you're killing this servant. This servant absolutely wouldn't dare. Absolutely wouldn't dare. This person would be the empress in 10 days. Even if Eunuch Lu had 10,000 guts, he wouldn't dare to be arrogant in front of the future empress. Chapter 229. Eunuch Lu knew that he couldn't afford to offend the family Qin. Grand Preceptor Qin was the emperor's most valued official, and Miss Qin was the emperor's beloved woman. Therefore, he restrained his temper, bowed even lower, and said with a smile, replying to Darren, for the selection of concubines, we specially brought Miss Qin to the palace. So early? Qin Huaiyuan raised his eyebrows in confusion. His voice was as gentle as usual, but it gave people a strong sense of oppression. Eunuch Lu hurriedly said carefully, it's the emperor's idea. This time, in addition to your family's daughter, Miss Li from Duke An's mansion, and Miss Gu from Gu's mansion will also enter the palace. Is it the emperor's preceptor, old Gu? Yes. Qin Huaiyuan understood as soon as he heard this. Duke Ansley Mian was a military general. He and Duke Ding's mansion were known as the two heroes. Now, other than Prince Ning, who led the army outside, Duke An's mansion was the representative of the military. The emperor's preceptor, Gu Shixiang, was trusted by the retired emperor. Gu's mansion was a century-old family, and many of its children served in the court. Now that Chao's family was eliminated, the relationships in the court were reshuffled. The Gu's children became officials and formed a huge root system. Although Qin Huaiyuan was in the limelight, his family Qin's foundation was shallow, and there were few children in his family. He could be considered the leader of the civil officials, but he couldn't be considered the representative of the civil officials. The emperor chose one civil and one military family to balance them. As for Qin Yining, it was a must in the emperor's mind, so he didn't consider her as a part of the balance. But the emperor miscalculated. Duke Ansley Mian was a military general, and Gu Shixiang and he were both civil officials. Now that it was wartime, the emperor should promote a large number of military generals to boost morale and not focus on the civil and military. Qin Huaiyuan helplessly shook his head. If it was something else, and the emperor couldn't see it clearly, he could advise. But this matter involved the family Qin. If he said too much, it would make the emperor suspicious. As Eunuch Lu knows, my family just suffered a great calamity the day before yesterday. Please take a look at the residence behind. Qin Huaiyuan pointed behind him with a smile and sighed. To tell you the truth, my daughter was also injured by an assassin. She's running a fever now. I'm really worried about letting her leave home. From Eunuch Lu's angle, he could see the charred ruins behind the family Qin. Moreover, it was not a secret that so many people had died in the family Qin. Moreover, Qin Yining, who was standing at the side, had a sickly look on his face and was only able to stand with the help of a maidservant. It was a bit too much to take her into the palace immediately. However, when he came out, the emperor had specially instructed him to pick up the girls from the other two families as he pleased. However, the girls from the family Qin were specially instructed to be brought into the palace immediately. Eunuch Lu said with a conflicted expression, Grand Preceptor is right. It's just that this servant doesn't dare to disobey His Majesty's decree. However, you can rest assured. His Majesty said in private that this selection of consorts is just a formality. The other two are just for this old official's sake, so he'll just give them the position of concubine. Only the young miss of your family is truly the one in His Majesty's heart. When Eunuch Lu said this, He deliberately smiled flatteringly and raised his head to look at the expressions of Qin Huaiyuan and Qin Yining. Seeing that the two of them were unexpectedly neither happy nor sad and still had that cultured and refined appearance, Eunuch Lu choked back his next compliment. In his heart, he thought that these two people's indifferent appearance was exactly the same. In the end, they were the young foxes raised by the old fox. They were just as shrewd. Eunuch Lu became even more alert and continued, "His Majesty definitely won't wrong young Miss Qin. In addition, this servant knows that Mama Jean is familiar with young Miss Qin. The palace will also order people to take good care of her." Qin Huaiyuan looked at Qin Yining's flushed cheeks and pale lips that were devoid of color due to fever. He frowned with heartache. Just as he was about to open his mouth to argue for more, Qin Yining had already stepped forward and pulled on Qin Huaiyuan's sleeve. If he continued to argue and it reached the emperor's ears, it wouldn't be because he cared for his daughter, but because he was spoiled and arrogant. "Father, don't worry. Eunuch Lu will definitely make the appropriate arrangements. In addition, there are imperial physicians in the palace who can also treat the illness." She then turned to Eunuch Lu and said with a polite smile, "Eunuch Lu, please forgive me. Father only has this one daughter. You also know that I haven't been home for a long time. In addition, I'm injured now. Father truly loves his daughter, so he's like this. This servant understands. Darren loves his family. This servant deeply admires you." Eunuch Lu nodded repeatedly. In the end, she was the empress candidate that the emperor had his eyes on. Not only was she good-looking, she was also quick-witted and steady in her work. Qin Huaiyuan saw that the situation was a foregone conclusion, and there was no other way. He could only say, "Then forget it. Why don't Eunuch Lu sit for a moment and allow my daughter to say goodbye to her family? Then she can pack the things she needs and take them with her." Eunuch Lu revealed a difficult expression when he heard this. In reality, the other party's request wasn't excessive. His daughter was being sent out like this, so naturally, she had to say goodbye to the female elders in the family. It was only right for her to bring some commonly used items. However, when he was leaving, the emperor kept exhorting him, "Don't worry about other people's families. Make things simple for Miss Qin. Bring her in first. Everything else can be discussed later." It was as if the emperor was afraid that there would be another unforeseen event. Eunuch Lu could only brace himself and say, "His Majesty said that it would be fine as long as Miss Qin enters the palace. The palace has already prepared everything. Her family can also enter the palace to visit her at any time." Qin Huaiyuan's heart burned with anger when he heard this. The emperor was too impatient. Could it be that after becoming the emperor, he even forgot the etiquette that a scholar should have? This kind of table manners was too unsightly. Qin Yining was afraid that his father would get angry and worsen the situation, so he only smiled and said, "His Majesty is right. Then I will be impolite. I will go in with Eunuch Lu. There will be 2 personal servant girls. His Majesty's meaning is that although the servant girls in the Fu are good, they don't understand the rules of the palace. Once you enter the palace, His Majesty will naturally arrange for the best palace maids for Miss to order about." This meant that she wasn't allowed to bring the people by her side. As a result, even Ji Yun and Bing Tang on the side became angry. What was this? She wasn't allowed to bid farewell to her grandmother and mother. She wasn't allowed to bring her luggage, and she wasn't even allowed to bring her personal servant girls. She wasn't even allowed to change her clothes, and she was going to enter the palace alone. What did they take her for? Qin Yining's heart also burned with anger when he heard this. His smile also faded a bit. His Majesty's orders? The people in the Fu indeed don't understand the rules. It's fine if you don't bring them, but I'm injured right now. I should be allowed to take the medicine for my injuries. Sweat appeared on Eunuch Lu's forehead. This was the future Empress Sa. Lord Qin was the future Emperor's father-in-law. Forget it. As long as he could bring her back. Why was there a need to be so serious about these details? He was only an eunuch. He still wanted to live in the future. Thinking of this, Eunuch Lu hurriedly smiled and said, "Miss, please hurry." Only then did Qin Yining's expression soften. He turned around and ordered Ji Yun and Bing Tang, Go and bring my medicine and daily necessities over. Oh, that's right. Bring my books over as well. I'm afraid that living in the palace will be boring. Yes. Then what about Mrs. Clothes? I don't think there's enough time to tidy them up. You can just send them to me later. Qin Yining turned around and asked Eunuch Lu with a smile. When you send things over later, Eunuch Lu must be accommodating. Chapter 230. Eunuch Lu knew that if he disobeyed in the slightest today, he would really offend the future empress to death. Therefore, if His Majesty didn't have a clear request, Eunuch Lu definitely didn't want to make things difficult for those ambiguous matters. While waiting for Ji Yun and Bing Tang, Eunuch Lu was very patient and didn't dare to show the slightest bit of impatience. Not long after, Ji Yun and Bing Tang returned, but they were accompanied by the matriarch, the Sun Clan, and second madam. Qin Huaiyuan met Qin Yining as soon as he returned to the Fu. His family members still didn't know the news outside. When Ji Yun and Bing Tang went to get something just now, they took the opportunity to tell the matriarch. The new emperor had ascended the throne, and their family's young lady was going to enter the palace. Such great news immediately made the matriarch so happy that tears fell from her eyes. The family Qin's days had been too hard recently, and there hadn't been any good news for a long time. Now that Qin Huaiyuan's officials had been restored and Qin Yining had received His Majesty's favor and entered the palace, they could finally breathe a sigh of relief. Sister Yi, are you going to participate in the consort selection now? The Sun Clan frowned. This time is too rushed. She felt that once Qin Yining entered the palace, he would most likely be selected immediately. It would be difficult for him to return home in the future. We will obey His Majesty's decree. Qin Yining smiled and glanced at Eunuch Lu, then bowed to the matriarch, second madam, and the Sun Clan. Matriarch, mother, second aunt, this matter happened too suddenly, so I didn't have time to talk about it in detail. His Majesty instructed Eunuch Lu to return quickly. It's not good for me to delay the time, so as to avoid making things difficult for Eunuch Lu. Qin Yining's understanding made Eunuch Lu's cheeks burn. The Sun Clan then came forward to give a big red envelope. We have troubled Eunuch to make a trip here on such a hot day. These are to treat Eunuch to tea. Please don't dislike them. What are you saying, madam? This servant is not worthy. Eunuch Lu was quite pleased, but he didn't dare to be arrogant. He hurriedly bowed to the women of the family Qin. This was the family of the future empress, so they couldn't be neglected. Qin Yining hugged the fluffy air by with her uninjured hand. She waited for Bing Tang to load her belongings into the carriage before she smiled and said, Eunuch Lu, let's set off then. Eunuch Lu hurriedly said, as if relieved of a heavy burden, yes. Qin Yining smiled and bowed to the female members of the family. Then, under the concerned gazes of his family members, he boarded the carriage. Eunuch Lu led Mama Jean, the palace maids, and the eunuchs to follow behind. The carriage drove out of the gate and directly went out through the open gate. Dowager Duchess dizzily grabbed Qin Huaiyuan's hand. Brother Meng, I'm not dreaming, right? Is our family's sister going to be an empress? Before Qin Huaiyuan could speak, second madam had already said, this is really a good thing. Although it was a good thing, everyone's joy wasn't as enthusiastic as before. Having an empress in the palace was very beneficial to the family. What the female members of the family most often thought of was helping their sisters' marriages. But now, the only living girl in the family was 8th Miss, the daughter of a concubine from the 3rd branch. Qin Yining couldn't even be considered a daughter of the family Qin. Therefore, although they were pleasantly surprised, they couldn't help but feel sad after their emotions settled down. Second madam was even more regretful. Although 6th Miss and 7th Miss were born of a concubine, they still had to call her mother. 2 beautiful girls were gone just like that. Their lives were really too bitter. Otherwise, now that there was an empress in the family, wouldn't their future be limitless? Everyone had their own thoughts. Only Qin Huaiyuan and the Sun Clan were sincerely worried about Qin Yining's safety. Master, the palace is very complicated. Not to mention, sister, even I feel dizzy when I go there. I'm afraid that if I make a mistake, I'll get into trouble. Sister E is still young. She's still injured. I can see that she doesn't look well. How can I be at ease when I go there like this? How could Qin Huaiyuan be at ease? It was just that there were some things that the people involved knew, but if they said it out loud, it would make the whole family worried. Therefore, Qin Huaiyuan only comforted the Sun clan with a few words before sending the Dowager Duchess and the other female members of the family back to Xixiao Garden. Now that the Qin mansion had not been renovated, Qin Yining, 8th Miss, and Qin Huaining, the 3 unmarried girls, were living in Shoren Garden. After comforting the Dowager Duchess, Qin Huaiyuan ordered someone to invite Mu Jinghu over. In fact, Mu Jinghu had been hesitating whether he should follow Qin Yining into the palace as her bodyguard. However, the other party actually didn't allow Qin Yining to bring anyone. Even the maidservants weren't allowed, let alone a man like him. Just as he was hesitating whether to sneak into the palace at night, Qin Huaiyuan ordered someone to invite him. Uncle. When Mu Jinghu saw Qin Huaiyuan, his attitude was still the same as before. He didn't become more respectful just because Qin Huaiyuan had been reinstated as an official. He greeted him intimately and politely as usual and bowed as a junior greeting an elder. Through this period of observation, Qin Huaiyuan discovered that Mu Jinghu wasn't a person with complicated thoughts. In the past, he had wondered why Mu Jinghu was so close to him. Now, he understood that Mu Jinghu was simply too honest and somewhat ignorant of the ways of the world. Presumably, he had a good relationship with Pang Zhishi, which was why Mu Jinghu respected him as Pang Zhishi's father-in-law. Therefore, when Qin Huaiyuan spoke to Mu Jinghu, he didn't use his usual method of leaving things unsaid and directly said, "Young Master Mu. To be honest, His Majesty has taken a liking to Sister E and wants to marry Sister E to be the Empress. As officials, we can't go against the imperial edict. Just now, people from the palace came, and I could only grit my teeth and watch them take Sister E away. You also know that Sister E hasn't recovered from her injuries and has lost so much blood. She's at her weakest. If Miss Qin becomes the Empress, won't that fox's wife be gone?" Mu Jinghu was anxious and his eyes were wide open. Qin Huaiyuan was stunned by the way he spoke. "I don't have any other choice now. It's easy to leave the capital but difficult to enter. My identity is sensitive, and now that I've been reinstated, I don't know how many eyes are watching me. I don't dare to send people to Xihua City without permission. Therefore, I want to ask young Master Mu if there's any way to contact little Wang Yi and inform him of this matter." Mu Jinghu said, "It's easy for me to send a message without anyone knowing. Is it just that Uncle doesn't want Miss Qin to be the Empress? Being the Empress is much more important than being the princess consort." Qin Huaiyuan was stunned again and said with a smile, "It's not like that. Just like the demon Empress who was just executed, her official position is great, but her life may not be stable." Mu Jinghu thought for a while and sighed. "I know. Forget it, Uncle, don't worry. I'll find a way to inform him." "Then, thank you very much." "You're welcome," Mu Jinghu said with a smile, "but I'll have to trouble Uncle to prepare the rations." "Yes, you don't have to worry about that. I'll make the necessary preparations." Qin Huaiyuan also understood Mu Jinghu's stingy and thrifty character. He couldn't help but smile and felt that it was good that he was being true to himself. Qin Yining didn't know that Qin Huaiyuan's method of informing Pang Xiao was to send Mu Jinghu to inform him. At this time, she had already arrived at the palace and was directly in front of the Jade Palace. Chapter 231. The person in front had a graceful figure and a beautiful face. She wore a light pink cross-necked gauze jacket and a goose-yellow horse-face skirt. Her long hair was tied up in a bun with gold and jade inlaid in the middle. Pure gold tassels hung down from both sides. As she walked slowly, the golden bead tassels shone dazzlingly under the sunlight, making her look even more dignified and graceful. Qin Yining had met this person once before when he followed the Demon Empress to Mount Changchun. She was the youngest daughter of the Duke of An, Li Yinyan. The person in the back had a delicate figure. When she walked, she looked like a willow branch swaying in the wind. She had pink cheeks and a delicate expression. When she looked at people, her beautiful eyes revealed a bit of shyness. She looked like a cute little kitten, making people want to protect her tenderly. In addition, she wore a simple magenta robe, which made her slender neck look even whiter. Her long black hair was glossy. Even the white jade ornament on her head was overshadowed by her porcelain white skin. Qin Yining had never seen her before, but he couldn't help but secretly praise her. She was indeed a beauty born from the waters of Jiangnan. Compared to her, Qin Yining felt that she was like a rough man. However, Qin Yining didn't know how Li Yinyan and Gu Chang felt when they saw her hair tied up in a bun and wearing ordinary clothes. Li Yinyan approached and bowed to Qin Yining. "Little sister Qin, long time no see." "Big sister Li." Qin Yining returned her greeting. Li Yinyan sighed and said, "Little sister Qin, I already know what happened to your family. Little sister, please restrain your grief." "Thank you, big sister." Qin Yining only smiled and greeted her politely. Li Yinyan introduced her. "This is the eldest daughter of the Gu clan. Her name is Chang. Her grandfather is the imperial preceptor, old Master Gu. So it's Miss Gu. I've been rude." Qin Yining bowed again politely. Gu Chang was flattered and said, "Big sister, Chang doesn't deserve this." Her eyes fell on the palm-sized white rabbit in Qin Yining's arms. "Big sister is naturally beautiful. Even if you don't dress up, you're still devastatingly beautiful." Seeing big sister holding a little jade rabbit, little sister really feels that I'm unworthy of the name Chang. Qin Yining was a little annoyed. "Miss Gu, you flatter me. The name carries the expectations and blessings of the elders. Miss Gu is as beautiful as a fairy. How can you be ashamed of the name Chang?" Li Yinyan smiled. She and Gu Chang had met a few times before. Although they knew each other, they were not familiar with each other. This was because she felt that Gu Chang looked delicate and pitiful on the outside, but was extremely pretentious on the inside. She did not like to make friends with people with this kind of personality. Now that Qin Yining had rebutted Gu Chang's sarcastic words, Li Yinyan couldn't help but feel secretly pleased. While the three of them were talking, 3 nannies and a group of palace servants walked out of the Jade Palace in a single file. The nanny in the lead was in her early 40s. She was fair and plump, like a big white steamed bun with a smiley face painted on it. The 2 nannies behind her were dressed lower than her. Nanny Zhan took advantage of the time to support Qin Yining to whisper in her ear. The one in the lead is His Majesty's wet nurse, Nanny Jiao. The other 2 are nannies in charge of teaching etiquette in the palace. Qin Yining heard this and nodded imperceptibly. When they came close, Qin Yining forced herself to smile and bow. This little girl greets the nannies. Li Yinyan and Gu Chang also bowed. Who knew that before Qin Yining could bow, the fair and plump Nanny Jiao supported her. "We don't dare to accept Mrs. Bao." Nanny Jiao bowed deeply to Qin Yining. "This servant is Jiao Shi. I'm here to serve Miss on His Majesty's orders." Clearly, Nanny Jiao's politeness shocked the people around her. Everyone present was shrewd. How could they not know what this meant? The emperor had sent his wet nurse to personally serve a beauty who was entering the palace to participate in the selection. Even if their country's current situation was unusual and the selection process had been severely reduced, the selection was still the selection. The emperor's intentions were clear as day. Li Yinyan's gaze was a bit complicated. Gu Chang lowered her eyes and bit her lower lip. The other 2 nannies also bowed to Li Yinyan and Gu Chang. Then, they each took their temporary masters to Jade Palace to settle down. Nanny Zhan was only responsible for accompanying the guests. Now, she could only bow and withdraw. It was unknown what the emperor was thinking. He specifically ordered that Qin Yining be arranged in the main hall of Jade Palace. The other 2 were arranged in the east and west side halls. When they arrived in the main hall, Nanny Jiao led 2 palace maids and 2 eunuchs to give Qin Yining a solemn bow. These servants pay respects to Mississippi. Qin Yining hugged the little rabbit and sat at the head of the table. After receiving their greetings, he personally went to help Nanny Jiao up. "Nanny, please don't be so courteous." "Miss, please don't be like this." When this servant came, the emperor already told this servant. He told this servant to properly serve Mississippi. This servant didn't see the emperor arrange for anyone else. This servant also didn't see the emperor care so much about any woman. Even consort Shu didn't. This servant knows that the emperor only has you in his heart. Those two are just here to go through the motions and be conferred the title of consort. You are the future empress. At this point, Nanny Jiao smiled and bowed. This servant will congratulate Miss here. The 4 palace maids also bowed. Congratulations, Miss. Congratulations, Mississippi. I have no talent or virtue. How can I bear this responsibility? Nanny, please don't say such things. Qin Yining ordered them to rise. Nanny Jiao pointed at the 2 palace maids and said, "This is Xing Yu and Fu Shui. They used to serve tea in Yang Xian Palace. The emperor specially sent them to serve Mississippi." The 2 young palace maids hurriedly kowtowed to Qin Yining. Nanny Jiao then pointed at the 2 little eunuchs who weren't more than 12 or 13 years old and said, "This is Xiao Yangzi and Xiao Ningzi. These 2 are Lu Gonggong's disciples. They were also specially sent by the emperor to serve Mississippi. This servant pays respects to Mississippi Xing Yu, Fu Shui, Xiao Yangzi, and Xiao Ningzi." Once again bowed to Qin Yining. "All right, you can all rise." Each time Qin Yining listened to Nanny Jiao's explanation, his head would hurt a bit more. He didn't know if it was because of his irritation and conflict, or if his fever had worsened. At this time, he felt very impatient. However, he didn't want to make things difficult for these people who could only be manipulated. He only said, "I'm a bit tired. I want to rest for a while." Yes, the bedroom has been tidied up. Lu Gonggong went to find a grand physician just now. He could treat Miss in a while. Xing Yu and Fu Shui supported Qin Yining on either side into the room. Nanny Jiao directed Xiao Yangzi and Xiao Ningzi to do things. Xing Yu originally wanted to help Qin Yining undress, but Qin Yining thought that this was not his home. There would be social events. It would be rude to dress too comfortably. He could only refuse. She lay on the couch next to the window with her clothes on. She put the well-behaved Airby on her stomach and used her uninjured hand to gently stroke Airby's head. Fu Shui brought a thin blanket to cover her. It was unknown if it was because she was weak or really tired. Qin Yining's movements slowly slowed, and she fell asleep. She didn't know how long she had slept. She suddenly felt a beast staring at her. Qin Yining's instinct from years of training in the mountains couldn't be ignored. She immediately woke up and opened her eyes. Unexpectedly, she saw a large face. Qin Yining was shocked and hurriedly pushed the man away. However, she didn't expect that she was right-handed and forgot that her right shoulder was injured. She pushed the man to the ground, and the wound on her shoulder opened. She immediately hissed in pain. She was no longer sleepy, and blood gradually seeped out of the light blue cloth on her shoulder. Lu Gonggong helped the emperor up. The guards behind him shouted loudly, "How dare you!" Chapter 232. Little E, are you all right? Yu Qiyin sat beside Qin Yining and looked at her pale face with worry. "It's our fault for scaring you." Hearing him call her that, Qin Yining felt goosebumps all over her body. She knelt down and avoided Yu Qiyin. "This subject greets your majesty." The beauty's face was deathly pale, and her shoulders were stained with blood. Her originally plump, oval-shaped face was now almost as thin as an oval. She was originally thin, but now she had a delicate and sickly beauty. Yu Qiyin's heart melted when he saw her. How could he bear to let her kneel? "Quickly get up. There's no need to be so courteous in front of us. You're still injured." The emperor sat on the couch and bent over to support Qin Yining's arm. Qin Yining cleverly knelt and retreated. She endured the pain in her shoulder and bowed. Etiquette cannot be discarded. "Long live your majesty." The couch was not high. Yu Qiyin bent over and reached out to help her up. His eyes were full of tenderness as he said, "I already said that there's no need to be so courteous. Quickly lie down." He helped her to the bed. Qin Yining frowned and avoided his hand. She stopped and called out, "Airby, come here." The snow-white ball squatting beside the couch kicked its short legs and twisted its little butt. It bounced to Qin Yining's feet and sat there, its two little claws grabbing the hem of her dress. "This is your pet." Yu Qiyin bent over and picked up the palm-sized rabbit. This little thing was snowy white all over. There was only a dark circle around its left eye. Its two little ears were drooping, its cheeks were chubby, and its body was chubby. There was even a red plum blossom fringe around its neck. It was very cute. Like pet. You're so exquisite. So is your little rabbit." He held air by with one hand and Qin Yining's left hand with the other. "Quickly lie down." Qin Yining waved her hand again and sat down beside the bed. She took air by from Yu Qiyin and placed it on the green brocade bed. Yu Qiyin was not angry. He just stood there with a smile and looked at her with a smile. It was as if he was admiring a piece of art that he had admired for a long time. Nurse Jiao, Xingyu, Fu Shui, and the servants quickly retreated to the outer hall. Young Miss Qin was indifferent, but the emperor still stuck to her. They couldn't bear to look. Wasn't this how retired emperor used to treat the one who was burned with human oil wax? Would the emperor inherit his father? Would there be a new, powerful empress in the Dian? Yu Qiyin didn't care what other people thought. He had liked Qin Yining for a long time. At that time, Qin Yining was ordered to participate in the peace talks. He hurriedly chased after him to confess his feelings. But Qin Yining slapped his hand away and scolded him for not knowing the rules and being disrespectful in front of everyone. He was very sad at that time and even had a big fight with Ning Wang. He only understood later why Qin Yining had rejected him at that time. She couldn't do anything with her status at that time. If she dared to show that she was close to him, Imperial Father would think too much. He thought at that time that if he stood at the peak of power one day, he wouldn't have to worry about anything. Now he finally did it. There were tens of thousands of women in the world who were willing to give themselves to him. But the one he wanted the most was the person in front of him. Yu Qiyin was in high spirits and was even more gentle and careful towards Qin Yining. Quickly lie down and rest. The imperial physician will be here soon. We have already instructed Nurse Jiao to take good care of your body and make up for the deficit. Qin Yining was already dizzy at this time, but she forced herself to stay awake. When she heard Yu Qiyin's words, her ears were ringing. "If you want me to rest, then go out." Qin Yining really wanted to chase him out, but the other party was the emperor, so she couldn't do it too badly. "Your Majesty, please go do your business. Don't waste your time here. There's no end to official business. Right now, you're Zhen's official business." Yu Qiyin actually sat down next to Qin Yining and used his index finger to gently stroke her feverish pink cheeks. "Look at you, don't be shy. Our days are still long." Yu Qiyin felt that her pink cheeks were definitely because she was shy. Qin Yining's mind buzzed, and she almost fainted from anger. She couldn't take it anymore and pushed away Yu Qiyin's hand. "Your Majesty, please conduct yourself with dignity." Yu Qiyin was stunned. When he saw Qin Yining's eyes that were even more moist from the fever, he was confused and aggrieved as he said, You're about to become our empress. Why are you still? His Majesty is a scholar, not a bandit trying to force his wife back. I don't have any romantic feelings for His Majesty. I only admire you for your talent. Why do you force me to do something I don't want to do?" Yu Qiyin was stunned. Qin Yining stood up and knelt in front of the bed. She solemnly said, "Your Majesty, this subject's daughter respects your position and admires your talent. But this subject's daughter doesn't have any feelings towards you." Eunuch Lu, who had rushed back with 4 imperial physicians, heard this as soon as he entered the outer hall. He was so scared that his soul almost left his body, and he quickly stopped in his tracks. The 4 imperial physicians looked at each other, and their faces all turned pale from fright. They silently retreated. What a joke! The emperor was rejected by a little girl. If this scene was seen by people like them, who shouldn't see it, they wouldn't want to live anymore. Yu Qiyin lowered his head to look at Qin Yining. His eyes were filled with emotions. It went from shock to understanding, and then from understanding to anger. He leaned over and grabbed Qin Yining's chin, forcing her to raise her head to look at him. He angrily roared, "You don't like us? Then tell us, what kind of person do you like? You like someone with the surname Yin?" Their faces were very close to each other. They were so close that Qin Yining could smell the ambergris on Yu Qiyan's body. She could see the two flames burning in his eyes. She knew that she couldn't talk about feelings with the emperor. But at this time, if she didn't talk about feelings with him, she didn't have the right to say rejection. Because if she didn't talk about feelings between a man and a woman, her rejection would be going against the emperor's will. Your Majesty, no matter who I like, I don't have any feelings for you. Yu Qiyan angrily tightened his grip. His fingers pinched her smooth skin, and he felt that it was very fragrant and soft. He wanted to swallow this person up. Yu Qiyan felt that he had been ignited. He didn't know if it was anger or lust, but he just wanted to grab this person who didn't know what was good for her and punish her. His mind was completely blank as he looked at her pale lips. His eyes gradually darkened as he fiercely kissed her. Qin Yining was scared out of her wits. She quickly turned her head to dodge and fell to the ground. Yu Qiyan's momentum didn't decrease as he threw himself at her. Although his lips didn't land on her lips, they brushed past her cheek and landed on her neck. Chapter 233. The blood in Yu Qiyan's body was about to be ignited. He was not an inexperienced brat, and he was not someone who was unable to extricate himself from women's charms. But today, he was unprecedentedly excited. He just wanted to take this person for himself and make her submit to him. He wanted her to only see him in her eyes and only think of him in her heart from now on. Yu Qiyan tightly hugged her, sticking close to her soft body. He placed wet and hot kisses on her lips, cheeks, and neck. His throat was filled with rough breathing as he muttered in a low voice, You are this one's. You can only be this one's. The one surnamed Yun is just a crude and boorish man. What is so good about him? If you think of him, that is treason. Do you know what kind of crime treason is? If you change your mind now, this one will definitely let bygones be bygones. This one will also. Before he finished speaking, Yu Qiyan suddenly felt a cold sensation on his neck. He used his arms to support himself and looked at the person lying on the ground in shock. Her soft, black hair was scattered all over the ground. The silver hairpin she had used to tie up her hair was now tightly held in her hand. The sharp and cold end was pressed against his throat. Yu Qiyan's lust was instantly extinguished, and what followed was an uncontrollable rage. He gritted his teeth and said in a low voice, What are you doing? Do you want to kill the emperor? Qin Yining's left arm was pressed down by Yu Qiyan, so she could only use her injured right arm to hold the silver hairpin. This movement made the wound on her shoulder open even more, and blood quickly soaked through her clothes. However, even with such pain, she did not let go of the hand holding the silver hairpin. She panted and said word by word, If you force me again, I will kill you and then kill myself. You don't dare. Yu Qiyan coldly stated, This little girl's life is cheap and has already been degraded to this degree. Could it be that I still want to live? Aren't you afraid of implicating your mother's clan? Qin Yining looked at Yu Qiyan with eyes that went from anger to despair, and then from despair to ridicule. It seems that I have overestimated the emperor. Her vision began to darken again. It was as if an opera troupe had been forcibly stuffed into her brain, buzzing and clanging incessantly. Finally, the hand holding the murder weapon could no longer exert any strength and drooped down. Yu Qiyan watched as her bright eyes, which were originally filled with anger and hatred, gradually lost focus. Her long eyelashes trembled, and her eyes slowly closed. He was immediately scared out of his wits. Ignoring the mess in the hall, Yu Qiyan trembled as he checked her breathing. After confirming that she was still breathing, he immediately held her in his arms and shouted anxiously, Lily, wake up! Someone come! Imperial physician! Imperial physician! When the guards outside heard the Yu Qiyan's panicked voice, they hurriedly rushed in. They saw the emperor sitting on the ground while holding the long-haired Qin Yining in his arms. His face was deathly pale as he repeatedly called out her name. Everyone was scared to death. Your Majesty, please put down the patient and let me treat him. The 4 imperial physicians came forward and bowed. Yu Qiyan immediately carried Qin Yining to the bed. Jiao Mama, Xingyu, and Fu Shui went to the bed to help. Seeing so many people surrounding the bed, Yuchi Yin anxiously paced back and forth. Not long after, the imperial physicians arrived in front of the emperor. What happened? Speak quickly. The emperor didn't wait for him to finish bowing and urged. What happened to her? Why did she faint? Your Majesty, Miss Qin's wound was very deep and had injured her blood vessels. She had already lost a lot of blood and was unable to recuperate. In addition to the hot summer weather, the wound became inflamed and healed slowly. Miss Qin also had a high fever. She wasn't careful, and the wound that healed easily split open again. This official thinks that the rotten flesh on the wound needs to be scraped off and stitched up again. Miss Qin's body was weak to begin with. Her injury relapsed, and with the high fever and blood loss, she fainted. The old imperial physician didn't tell the entire truth. Other than the above reasons, the biggest reason was that she was too angry. But even if the imperial physician had a few brains, he wouldn't dare to say this in front of the emperor. Yuchi Yin bit his lip and instantly felt his heart ache. If he hadn't acted rashly, how could her injury have flared up? How could she have lost blood? When he saw her rosy cheeks earlier, he thought that it was because she was shy. Now that he thought about it, her lips were pale and bloodless. Only her cheeks were abnormally red. If it wasn't a fever, what was it? He hated that he hadn't noticed. He had almost forced himself on her. Yuchi Yin hated that he couldn't fiercely hit himself twice. You must cure her. Otherwise, don't even want your head. If you need any medicine, go back to Little Lu to get it. Ginseng, cinnamon, as long as it's useful, don't be stingy. Yes. The imperial physician bowed in fear. Eunuch Lu on the side carefully said, Your Majesty, you still have government affairs to take care of. Let the imperial physician treat her. Yuchi Yin scratched his head and finally flicked his sleeve in annoyance, returned to Yangxin Palace. Yes. Your Majesty is setting off. Eunuch Lu supported Yuchi Yin and left Jade Palace. Li Yin Yin and Gu Chang, who lived in the east and west side halls, only had time to go to the courtyard and bow to the emperor. Yuchi Yin was worried about Qin Yining's injury and didn't even look at the two. He just waved his hand casually and left with large strides. Li Yinyan's expression was normal. She got up to return to the east side hall. Gu Chang coldly snorted and said in a low voice, I don't know what that surname Qin did to make our emperor so enchanted. Doesn't she have a close personal relationship with the Zhou's Prince Zhongshuan? How can she have the nerve to be so pretentious? She's really despicable. Li Yinyan indifferently looked at Gu Chang and said with a smile, Miss Gu knows a lot. But poetry is passed down from generation to generation. You should be careful with your words. Don't ruin your Gu family's reputation. Gu Chang said with a fake smile, Is that so? She originally thought that she could pull together an alliance to deal with the Qin clan. It wouldn't be too late for her to give up after the Qin clan fell. Who knew that Li Yinyan wouldn't buy it at all? Gu Chang was so angry that she sneered and returned to the west side hall. Dark clouds covered the moon, and a heavy downpour fell on the quiet military camp, washing away the shiny black armor of the Tiger Army on duty. When Pang Xiao heard that Mu Jinghu had come to visit the military camp, he immediately went to welcome him and brought him into the commander's tent. He only left Huzi by his side and ordered the other Jinghu Wei to guard the surroundings carefully and not let anyone come close to listen in. Blockhead, why are you back? Did something happen in the capital? Mu Jinghu said bluntly, Your wife has been snatched away. What? Your wife is going to be the empress. Mu Jinghu seriously repeated. Pang Zhao's expression was calm. Rainwater slid down his shiny black armor and dripped onto the ground, creating several small puddles. Tell me in detail. What happened? Chapter 234. Say it again. Yuchi Qingyin wants Sister Yi to be his empress? Pang Xiao narrowed his eyes. Huzi took a few steps back vigilantly, afraid that he would be implicated. Mu Jinghu nodded fearlessly. Yes, it's not convenient for me to follow the imperial palace. It's easy to expose my whereabouts. Otherwise, I would want to follow and protect her. You don't know, but when the new emperor took over, he didn't even allow her to bring along her personal maidservants. At first, he didn't even allow her to bring a change of clothes. Your wife is injured, and he didn't even allow her to bring medicine. What do you think the new emperor is doing? He's clearly seizing the opportunity to isolate your wife and make her his wife. Huzi took a few more steps back. Young Master Mu, I beg you, can you not add fuel to the fire? Pang Xiao sneered and squeezed out the words through his teeth. The Yuchi family has a long history. He's going to inherit his father's legacy. Mu Jinghu found a stool to sit on and poured himself some water to drink. Pang Zhao's knuckles turned white as he gripped the hilt of his sword, as if this was the only way to quell his anger. She was a weak woman and was even injured. How could she fight against the oppression of imperial power? If something really happened to her in the imperial palace, unfortunately, he was now the commander-in-chief of an army. Moreover, that old man Ning Wang still had some skills. They were locked in a fierce battle, and he couldn't leave the military camp without permission. Pang Xiao was really scratching his heart and liver at this moment. He wanted to protect his beloved woman, but he couldn't. Master, calm down. The most important thing now is to think of a solution. Huzi persuaded. Think of a solution? Mu Jinghu put down the bowl and said seriously, Actually, I think that your wife is qualified to be the empress. Pang Xiao stared coldly at Mu Jinghu. Mu Jinghu didn't realize that his words were inappropriate. He used his fingers to analyze for Pang Xiao. Look, her family background isn't bad, her looks and talents aren't bad, and she's so smart. Her father is also a very good person. If you become his son-in-law, you'll definitely benefit a lot. Moreover, if she were to become the empress, she would be the mother of the nation. If she were to follow you, she would only be a consort. As the empress, no one will step on her head and bully her. But as your Wang Fei, when she comes to your Zhou country, she will have to share your joys and sorrows. Your current status is also awkward. Who knows how many people want to scheme against you? Naturally, she will be implicated. Therefore, I feel that from her point of view, there is nothing wrong with being the empress. Huzi silently covered his face and quietly retreated to a corner of the tent. As soon as he steadied himself, the square table in the middle of the tent was smashed by Pang Zhao's palm. The teapot and porcelain bowl fell to the ground, and tea splashed all over Mu Jinghu's shoes. Sai, what are you doing? It's a pity that such a good table and the teapot and porcelain bowl are worth at least 2 strings of money. You're too wasteful. Mu Jinghu painfully picked up the 2 halves of the teapot and tried to put it back together. The people patrolling outside the tent heard the commotion and came to inquire. Huzi hurriedly went out and said with a smile, Brothers, it's okay. Wang Yi is sparring with his brother. I see. The northern men of the Tiger Army were all loyal and forthright. They knew that Pang Xiao liked to spar with his brothers, so they didn't think much of it. In the tent, Pang Xiao had already lifted Mu Jinghu by the collar. Rottenwood, what do you mean by this? Mu Jinghu pushed his hand away and said honestly, I'm just speaking the truth. Actually, you're thinking the same in your heart, right? Otherwise, why are you feeling guilty? I think you're just a selfish fox. Once you've taken a fancy to a girl, you'll do anything to get her, regardless of whether she's willing or not. Pang Zhao's thoughts were exposed, and his expression became even uglier. He shook his hand and let go of Mu Jinghu's collar. He fiercely slammed his palm on a round-backed chair, and the chair shattered into pieces. Mu Jinghu's heart ached for something. He squatted on the ground and said, What are you doing? This is all bought with money. Pang Xiao was filled with anger. How could he care about these things? Moreover, Mu Jinghu had indeed hit the nail on the head. He had taken a fancy to Qin Yining, so he used every means to fight for her and steal her heart. He didn't even ask if she was willing to, and had already forcefully labeled her as his. What if she wanted to be an empress? Pang Xiao gritted his teeth and said after a while, Huzi, Master. Huzi stepped forward and bowed. Go back with young Master Mu and find a way to get a definite answer for me. Master, what answer do you want? Huzi was puzzled. Marquis Anping sent Blockhead here to test my intentions. My intentions aren't the most important thing at this time. What's important is Sister Yi's intentions. If she's willing to be an empress and not willing to be my consort, How can I interfere with their affairs? Find a way to contact Master Zhong. His Xiaoyan agency has a wide network of contacts. He must have a way to contact the palace. Ask Sister E if she's willing to be with me. Master, don't doubt 4th Mississippi. I think 4th Miss is fond of you. Pang Xiao smiled bitterly. I'm not doubting her. I'm just afraid of delaying her. Pang Xiao knew his situation. To outsiders, he was Wang Yi, who had become sworn brothers with the Emperor of Zhou. He also had the military power of the Tiger Army in his hands, and he had limitless glory. But in reality, he was also struggling in the imperial court of Zhou. When the Northern Ji was destroyed, he was the one who led the charge. The Tiger Army was the one who killed and set fires. It was the officials of Northern Ji who now surrendered to the Zhou, who hated him from the bottom of their hearts. He took revenge for his father, and many people were widowed, which intensified the hatred of those people towards him. The Northern Ji Emperor was tyrannical, and the treasury had long been emptied. They didn't get much money from destroying Northern Ji. Back then, when the emperor led his brothers to conquer the world, he boasted that he would reward them. Now that the Zhou dynasty had been founded for 2 years and had a title, the reward money had not arrived yet. The brothers who had conquered the world together with him had complained a lot in secret. Now, there were people saying that the first person to charge into the capital of Beiji had looted the national treasury. Weren't they implying that he had hidden some money? That wasn't all. His Tiger Army, Xiao Yong, was better than the other generals, which naturally attracted the jealousy of the military officials. Now that the emperor needed to pacify the world, he valued the military officials even more. This made the civil officials feel uncomfortable. Since he was a representative of the military officials, there was another layer of hatred. Thinking about it carefully, he was a rough man with a group of people eyeing him covetously. He really didn't have any ability to be proud of. In short, Pang Xiao felt inferior because of Mu Jinghu's words. Huzi sighed. Then I'll go and ask Master what he plans to do next. Chapter 235. Master! Huzi looked at Pang Xiao worriedly. After so many years, this was the first time he saw him in such a state. He couldn't tell what was wrong, but he could feel that Pang Xiao's mood was not right. Master, it's easy for me to contact Master Zhong and ask 4th Miss for her opinion. But what about 4th Miss's safety in the palace? The new emperor doesn't allow 4th Miss to bring her trusted aides, so Ji Yun definitely can't go with her. What if the new emperor is like his incapable father and wants to harm 4th Miss? Pang Xiao frowned and said in a low voice, Blockhead means that her injuries are not light. Mu Jinghu nodded. Pang Xiao sighed and said, she is a smart person. At this time, she will definitely use the trick of injuring herself to avoid getting close to the new emperor. The new emperor is a scholar and sincerely loves her. He will definitely want to spend the rest of his life with her. He won't do anything to a sick person, and the time she has gained from falling ill is enough for me to operate. At this point, Pang Xiao sat down dejectedly on the only undamaged round chair and sighed again. Actually, Blockhead is right. I am selfish. Mu Jinghu held the broken teapot in his hand and squatted on the ground to look at Pang Xiao. Huzi also looked at him, wanting to say something, but hesitated. Even if she wants to be the empress, I still want to take her for myself, so I will never let her be the empress. Family Qin can't go against the decree, so I can only let the new emperor give up. Huzi nodded. He always knew that Pang Xiao was thoughtful and farsighted, so it was not strange that he could quickly analyze the situation and come up with countermeasures when he was angry. Mu Jinghu snorted and said, What a fox. Actually, your wife is a good match for you. You didn't see how she looked when she was scheming against those assassins. I was so scared that I thought she was possessed by a fox. You two foxes are a perfect match. I'm waiting to see how you two plot against each other after you get married. Pang Xiao knew that Qin Yining was very resourceful. When she heard Mu Jinghu's words, she could imagine the wise and cunning look in her eyes as she plotted. As long as he thought of her, his mood relaxed. Seeing that Pang Xiao had finally returned to normal, Huzi breathed a sigh of relief and said, "Master, are you planning to teach Prince Ning a lesson?" "We have to teach them a lesson, but we also have to pretend that we are tired. When they have a taste of the power of our tiger army and their soldiers are scared out of their wits, half of my plan will have succeeded." "What about the other half?" Pang Xiao called Huzi to his side and said in a low voice, "After you ask Sistery for her opinion, you will stay in the city." When the news of the fierce battle between the Tiger Army and the Yin Army spreads, I will order people to announce a temporary truce in front of the two armies. When the time comes, you will be like this. Pang Xiao whispered a few words in Huzi's ear. Huzi's eyes brightened as he listened. He nodded repeatedly. What a brilliant plan. All right, I will go into the city now. Seeing that they had made up their minds, Mu Jinghu also stood up. Pang Xiao personally sent the two of them out of the camp. Only then did he call a few generals to discuss the important matter. The next day, Huzi disguised himself and hid in a hookah lounge in the city. He asked for a single room and lay on the bed to catch up on sleep. Because Mu Jinghu was an unfamiliar face, no one would suspect him. He took on the task of delivering a letter to Master Zhong and asked him to meet him at the hookah lounge. When Master Zhong heard that Pang Xiao's men were coming, he did not dare to delay. He put aside his work and accepted the invitation. Mu Jinghu was worried that their conversation would be overheard, so he stayed outside to guard and left the room for the two of them. When Master Zhong saw Huzi, he was not as anxious as when he first came. He clasped his hands behind his back and snorted, "Now you finally remember. What were you doing earlier?" Huzi had just woken up and was still in a daze. He did not expect to be scolded by Master Zhong. He was a little confused. However, Huzi's answer was still very loyal to his master. "Please calm down. As you know, we are outside the city, and it is very difficult for us to deliver messages. Didn't we just receive the news? Master immediately ordered me to come into the city." Master Zhong snorted again and sat down boldly. "What are you doing here at this time? Seeing that our boss's young miss is going to be the empress. Are you anxious? Your family has suffered so many hardships, but I don't see your master being anxious. Now you are anxious to come." Master Zhong glared at Huzi and counted with his fingers. "My boss is both talented and beautiful. She has a good family background, is resourceful, and is virtuous and filial. In this old man's opinion, there is no other girl as good as her in this world. With her status, isn't she more than qualified to be the empress? In addition, our new emperor is young and promising, and he is devoted to my boss. I think it would be great for my boss to be the empress. Could it be that your master saw that my boss is going to be the empress and was jealous and wanted to stop her? Let me tell you, my young miss has a good temper, but this old man will not comply." When Huzi heard Master Zhong's words, how could he not tell that he was sulking? The family Qin had suffered such a disaster, but Wang Yi was far away and had to stay in the military camp. He couldn't do anything. He sent someone to rescue them, but it was too late, causing the family Qin to lose so many people. Looking at it now, even Master Zhong, an outsider, was full of resentment. As the person involved, Qin Yining might think differently. Huzi silently broke out in a cold sweat for his master. In front of outsiders, his master was the perfect example of a domineering tyrant, but in front of Qin Yining, he was like a tiger that immediately turned into a cat. He couldn't be fierce at all. With his master's temperament, he already felt guilty that he couldn't protect his family Qin. In addition, he was the general of an enemy country, and there were all kinds of rotten things happening in Dezhou. Huzi really felt that even if Wang Yi felt inferior, it was understandable. Huzi didn't dare to add fuel to the fire. He hurriedly smiled and said, "Head shopkeeper, you can say things out of anger, but you must not let your emotions affect your decisions and delay a pair of lovers. You also know that my master is devoted to your young lady, and he has never been so attentive to her. If he didn't treat her with sincerity, why would someone like my master make himself like a pancake, frying it in the Dian after the Zhou dynasty? He's crispy on the outside and tender on the inside, making himself look like a fried fish." Master Zhong was amused by Huzi's words. "Pancakes and fried fish. You haven't eaten yet, have you?" Huzi smiled shyly and secretly sighed in relief. Master ordered me to risk my life to come here and ask Master Zhong for a favor. This matter concerns the happiness of our two masters. Please do your best. Master Zhong listened to Huzi's words. Even though he felt that Qin Yining was unfairly treated, he couldn't delay the overall situation. He said, "Go ahead." Huzi and Master Zhong lowered their voices and discussed for a long time. After the two of them agreed on a plan, Master Zhong hurriedly went to handle the matter. That afternoon, a group of palace maids came to change the decorations and potted plants in the main hall of Jade Palace. At this time, Qin Yining had just taken his medicine. He was holding air by and leaning on the couch in a daze. When he looked up, he saw Ji Yun wearing palace-made clothes and holding a bouquet of lilies. She walked in with a smile and bowed to Xingyu and Fu Shui. Chapter 236. Ji Yunsheng was an outstanding beauty who could make anyone's eyes light up. However, she had specially dressed herself up today. Her face was painted a dark yellow, and there were 2 tattoos on the bridge of her nose and cheeks. In addition, she deliberately lowered her eyes so she didn't attract Xingyu and Fu Shui's attention. Xingyu was just about to get the vase when Qin Yining said, "Is it a lily? Let me see." Xingyu and Fu Shui hurriedly took it. How could they give this opportunity to others? But Ji Yun was one step faster. She raised her hands and bowed to offer the vase. Airbai, who was in Qin Yining's arms, recognized Ji Yun. It immediately sat up on her stomach and stared at Ji Yun with its big, watery eyes. Qin Yining used his left hand to fiddle with the lily petals and said with a smile, "I like lilies the most. It's hard on you." This servant doesn't dare to take the credit. The emperor knows that Miss likes it, so he specially ordered us to prepare it. Look, even the vase was specially chosen by the emperor. He said that Miss doesn't like it too gaudy, so he chose this white porcelain one. As Ji Yun spoke, she quickly looked up at Qin Yining. Qin Yining seemed to be energized by the flowers he liked. He wasn't as dispirited as before. He nodded with a smile and said, "I know. You did a good job. Put the flowers here." "Yes." Ji Yun followed Qin Yining's signal and put the vase on the small table next to Qin Yining's couch. Then she bowed and left. Xingyu and Fu Shui didn't notice the unfamiliar palace maid at all. They only wanted to flatter Miss Qin by saying that she liked lilies. But before they could think of a suitable one, Qin Yining said, "I'm tired. You can leave." That one sentence made them swallow the words they had yet to say. They were not Qin Yining's trusted aides. Even if they wanted to curry favor with Qin Yining, they could not expect Qin Yining to get close to them in a few days. Therefore, they could only respectfully bow and leave. Qin Yining was still leaning on the couch, fiddling with the flowers close to him, as if trying to figure out a better way to plant them. After everyone had left, she quickly scanned her surroundings and the window. Seeing that no one was watching, she immediately put down air by and carefully inspected the vase. Ji Yun would not enter the palace rashly. For her to disguise herself like this, she must have a message to pass on. Qin Yining had given her a hint just now. Therefore, Qin Yining first rummaged through the vase. When she didn't find anything, she checked the bottom of the vase. Finally, she found a small hole at the bottom of the vase. She probed with her little finger and found a note inside. Qin Yining's heart was pounding. He hurriedly took out the note and hid it in his handkerchief. He then put the bouquet back into its original position. She lay on the couch and rested for a moment. After confirming that no one was watching them, she quickly unfolded the note to read it. There were only 5 simple words written on it. "Yao will be out of stock within a few days." Qin Yining quickly rolled the note into a small ball and hid it well. She planned to destroy it when she lit the lantern. Then, she began to ponder over these 5 words. Yao must be referring to Pang Xiao. When they first met, he used his mother's surname. What did it mean by out of stock within a few days? When Pang Xiao had first met her, he had considered himself a merchant. Yao Gongzi was a businessman. If a businessman ran out of stock, that meant that there was no business to do. However, the real Pang Xiao was a marshal who led troops to war. Qin Yining immediately understood. These 5 words were to tell her that Pang Xiao would be stopping the war within a few days. But why would they stop the war? Ji Yun was one of Pang Xiao's people. She thought of all sorts of ways to sneak into the palace and passed on the news that Pang Xiao would be stopping the war within a few days. What did that mean? She suggested that her father tell Pang Xiao that the Yu Qi Yin intended to make her the empress after she entered the palace. She wanted Pang Xiao to help her think of a solution. Then, was the idea that Pang Xiao thought of to stop the war? But what did the front line stopping the war have to do with the emperor wanting to make her the empress? Qin Yining racked her brains, but still couldn't understand Pang Xiao's intentions. However, the fact that he had replied so quickly made her heart calm down. She didn't dare to show helplessness and hesitation in front of her father. She had been lonely since she was young. She knew that she had to fight for what she wanted. She had to work hard for what she wanted. Even if no one helped her, she would still fight for it. However, now Pang Xiao's message came. He wanted to let her know that she wasn't fighting alone. He wanted to let her know that he was also working hard to help her break free from the Yu Qi Yan's control. This kind of reply made Qin Yining feel that her persistence wasn't in vain. Qin Yining smiled, and her mood calmed down. Originally, her body was tired and she couldn't sleep. However, now that she had gotten rid of her worries, she quickly fell asleep. Yu Qi Yin came to see her at noon. Seeing that she was sleeping soundly, he stood with his hands behind his back and quietly looked at her. He didn't want to wake her up at all. He looked at her for the time it took 2 sticks of incense to burn before touching her cheek and reluctantly leaving. The emperor's affectionate appearance shocked Jiao Mama, Xingyu, and the others. They respected Qin Yining even more and served him even more attentively. The next morning, Qin Yining asked during breakfast. As usual, he asked what was happening outside. Nanny Jiao didn't dare to be negligent. She said worriedly, Prince Ning was defeated yesterday. Those boorish men of the Zhou dynasty fought too fiercely. We had 350,000 men defending the city, but they used a trick to lure the enemy and killed several thousand men. Prince Ning was also injured. Hearing this news, Qin Yining couldn't help but frown and say, I didn't expect Prince Ning to be injured even though he is so brave. I've never seen people of the Zhou dynasty fight so hard outside the capital. Yes, Xingyu and Fu Shui were worried when they heard this. Prince Ning Wangyi has always been brave. He will definitely be able to defend the city. Qin Yining nodded. She thought of the 5 words from yesterday again. They were going to stop fighting in 3 days. Yesterday, Prince Ning was seriously injured. What did Pang Xiao want to do? Qin Yining pursed her lips and ate a mouthful of porridge quietly. Suddenly, an idea flashed in her mind. She understood immediately. It turned out that he wanted to use the war to force the Yu Qi Yin to give up. Qin Yining held the ivory chopsticks tightly. It took her a lot of effort to maintain her original appearance. However, she was already looking forward to it. Thinking about Pang Xiao's handsome face, she actually looked forward to meeting him like she never had before. They had been separated for a long time. The news that Prince Ning was injured and the defenders were defeated had spread all over the city. However, there was another rumor in the city this time. It said that Prince Ning was very skilled in martial arts. Although he had suffered some losses, he had also severely injured the Tiger Army. At the same time, there was news from Xihua City. The Tiger Army announced that they would stop fighting and wait until after the coronation ceremony of Emperor Yuan Kong. This was because the young lady of the family Qin was personally appointed by the Tianjizi. She was the holy maiden who could protect the fate of the country. Now that she was protecting the Dayan, it would be too difficult to fight. Therefore, the Tiger Army planned to wait until this protective talisman got married and lost the ability to protect the country before starting the war. That way, the Tiger Army would be able to achieve twice the result with half the effort. The idea that Miss Qin couldn't protect the country once she got married was forcefully instilled in the minds of the people. The news that Emperor Yuan Kong wanted to make Miss Qin his empress had already spread among the people. Io, what should we do? If the emperor really makes Miss Qin his empress, then Miss Qin won't be able to protect the Dayan. Miss Qin is the holy maiden. If the holy maiden gets married, she will lose the ability to protect the country. The emperor can't marry Miss Qin for the sake of the country. People were discussing this among the people and on the streets. Chapter 237. Yu Qiyin sat upright on the throne, his face as calm as water. He watched as the officials came forward one by one to advise him, saying things like, for the sake of the stability of the country and for the sake of the people, and asking him to carefully consider the emperor's candidate. But Yu Qiyin knew that these people were just afraid of being implicated. He used to think that as an emperor, he had to love the people like his own children, and as an official, he had to serve the country wholeheartedly. But now that he was sitting in this position, he felt that things were not as simple as he thought. He loved the people like his own children, but his people only cared about their own safety when they encountered problems, and didn't care about his wishes at all. It was just a rumor, but his people could deprive him of a lifetime of happiness. If he didn't listen to the people's will, then he would have to bear the burden of being an incapable ruler. Perhaps some people would say that he was like the retired emperor, only knowing how to get close to women, but not the people's hearts. And his officials, each with their own thoughts, only cared about their own interests and even tried to use morality to kidnap him. They said something like, for the sake of the stability of the country, for the sake of the people. Would their country perish if he married Qin Yining? At this time, Yu Qiyin really wanted to fiercely slap these people's faces with their serious words. But what remained of his reason told him that he couldn't do this. He had just ascended to the throne, and his country hadn't stabilized yet. If he offended these officials now, it would be difficult for him to advance in the future. Yu Qiyin closed his eyes, and for a moment, he was so angry that his eyes began to burn. The hall was completely silent. The officials carefully observed the emperor's expression. After a long time, Yu Qiyin opened his eyes and looked at Qin Huaiyun, who was standing at the head of the civil officials. Beloved official Qin, what do you think should be done? Qin Huaiyun only needed to look at Yu Qiyin's expression to guess what he was thinking and couldn't help but secretly shake his head again. After all, the emperor was a free and easy scholar. He didn't care about politics, and he didn't have any talent. When he encountered problems, he didn't deal with them rationally, but emotionally. If this continued, what would happen to the country's fortune? Qin Huaiyun cupped his hands and bowed. This subject does not dare to make any rash comments. Your Majesty will make a clear decision. The courtiers were all silently cursing in their hearts. If the emperor was smart, he wouldn't have asked Qin Huaiyun this question out of dependence. After all, everyone was discussing whether Qin Huaiyun's daughter should be the empress or not. How would Qin Huaiyun answer the emperor's question? When Yu Qiyin heard this, he realized that he had asked a stupid question. Apart from the awkwardness, his mood became even worse. If he nodded now, then Qin Yining would no longer belong to him. The Yu Qiyin could only make a last-ditch effort. The Tianjizi's assessment of Miss Family Qin is still unverified. If a little girl can protect the country's security, then what do we need men for? What did he want the soldiers at the front lines to do? This is complete nonsense. Reporting to your Majesty, what we should be discussing now is not whether the Tianjizi's assessment of Miss Family Qin is true or not, but whether the people already believe it. An old courtier stepped out of his office and kowtowed. The foolish people are ignorant. But are you also ignorant? How can you follow what others say? One of the courtiers stood out and said, Your Majesty, the foolish people are ignorant, but they can carry the boat. This subject is not following what others say. It is just that the Dayan needs such a role to calm the people. This subject agrees. Your Majesty has just ascended to the throne. If you forcefully go against the will of the people, I'm afraid you will lose the support of the people. Yu Qiyin clenched his hands into fists. What, will I lose the support of the people if I marry a girl? The main point is that the rumors are spreading. Regardless of whether the rumors are true or not, the people believe it. Yu Qiyin stood up angrily. The one surnamed Feng said to stop the war temporarily, but he didn't say that as long as I don't marry Miss Family Qin, they won't continue the war. However, the people all believe that as long as your Majesty doesn't marry Miss Family Qin, they will be safe. The veins on Yu Qian's forehead bulged. Fortunately, he still had a bit of reason left, so he didn't curse out loud on the spot. These were his subjects. They were so ignorant, so selfish, and so absurd. It turned out that ascending to the throne didn't mean freedom. Just the words, the people's wishes, were enough to turn into chains and fiercely bind him. I still need to think about this matter. Court is dismissed. Yu Qian no longer had any patience. He flicked his sleeves and left. The courtiers looked at each other in dismay. In the end, they could only shake their heads and sigh as they dispersed. Qin Huaiyuan looked in the direction of the emperor's departure and faintly sighed. In terms of methods, the emperor was much worse than Pang Zhishi. When faced with problems, Pang Zhishi could quickly think of countermeasures and had the ability to quickly execute them. The emperor, on the other hand, only knew how to get angry. If this continued, how could he be a match? When Qin Huaiyuan thought about the temperaments of the two emperors he had assisted, he felt a wave of powerlessness. Forget it, forget it. Let's just leave it like this. After court was dismissed, Yu Qian walked quickly to Jade Palace with a cold expression. Eunuch Lu led a group of palace servants and imperial bodyguards to follow behind from a distance. They were afraid that if they got too close, they would be affected by the emperor's anger. At this time in Jade Palace, Lin Shufei, who was also secondary concubine Lin when the new emperor was in seclusion, was in the courtyard lecturing the 3 harem beauties entering the palace this time. Although they were called harem beauties, everyone knew in their hearts that these 3 would be selected. Moreover, Qin Yining wanted to be the empress. Lin Shufei had adored Yu Qian for many years and had served him for many years. She had given her all, so how could she say that she didn't ask for anything in return? She had long heard that the new emperor was deeply in love with the Qin clan. The Qin clan could be considered an influential figure among the noble young ladies in the capital. She had wanted to meet them for a long time. Some people privately said that the emperor had come to visit the Qin clan on the day they entered the palace. He had forgotten about Madame Li and Madame Gu and only treated this one well. Lin Shufei endured for 2 days, but in the end, she couldn't endure it any longer. Today, she happened to pass by Jade Palace, so she brought people in to take a look. Madame Li and Madame Gu were strolling and chatting in the courtyard, so they immediately came to greet her. As for the Qin clan girl, who was rumored to be the empress, she was arrogantly lying in her room and refused to come out. She even made her wait for a long time. This consort has long known that family Qin produces beauties. Younger sister Qin is truly outstanding. It's no wonder that the emperor has fallen in love with you. Lin Shufei was in her early 20s. She had a well-developed figure and a charming voice. She wore a silver-red jacket with a rose-red pomegranate skirt and a light yellow muslin shawl. She fanned herself with a round fan. As she spoke, she stretched out her jade-like hand that was wearing a 3-inch golden armor to lift Qin Yining's chin. Qin Yining frowned uncomfortably, but she didn't avoid it. She only knelt properly and said, "Nyang Yang is as beautiful as a flower. This subject doesn't dare to receive such praise from Nyang Yang." "That's right. You don't dare." Lin Shufei fanned herself and sneered. "You don't dare to receive praise, but you dare to lie in bed and make this consort wait for you to come out and greet me." Qin Yining kowtowed and said, "Nyang Yang, please calm your anger. Because this subject is ill. This subject woke up with a fever this morning. My body felt unwell, so I was lazy and slept a little longer. When I heard that Nyang Yang had graced me with your presence, I hurriedly got up. I didn't dare to be too sloppy and disturb Nyang Yang, so I tidied up a little and was late. Please forgive this subject's negligence. Anne, younger sister's voice is really pleasant to hear. If you say a few more words, this consort will listen to you like I'm listening to a bird chirping." Lin Shufei covered her mouth with a round fan and laughed. Qin Yining sighed in her heart. She hadn't even entered the palace yet, but she was already being treated like this. Was the palace a place for people to stay? Chapter 238. Lin Shufei looked down at the woman kneeling in front of her. The jealousy in her eyes could not be concealed. It was this woman that had seduced the emperor's heart and eyes. She had made the emperor disregard her many years of service. Even if he wanted to confer the title of empress, he had to surpass her. She admitted that her family background was not as good as hers. But so what? This was not a reason for her to yield. In terms of deep feelings and understanding of the emperor, who could compare to her? What crime has Qin Mimi committed? Don't say it like this. It's as if this consort has done something to you. Lin Shufei did not allow Qin Yining to rise. Instead, she gently fanned herself and paced back and forth. I heard that Mimi grew up in the mountains. Have you ever studied? Qin Yining opened her mouth and chose to remain silent. In any case, Lin Shufei did not really want to ask her. She just wanted to humiliate her. As expected, Lin Shufei did not give her a chance to reply and said, "Our emperor is well-read. When he was 7, he could compose poems. When he was 8, he could write well. If Mimi does not have any knowledge, I'm afraid you won't be able to serve the emperor well." Gu Chong, who was standing to the side, revealed an indifferent sneer. Li Yinyan frowned and said, "Shufei Nyang is right. However, a woman without talent is virtuous. Serving the emperor is not to be the top scholar. As long as the emperor values Qin Mimi, there is no need to consider anything else." Li Mimi is quite eloquent. Lin Shufei sneered. It seems that Duke Angua's Fu and Grand Preceptor Qin's family have a good relationship. Li Yinyan smiled faintly, replying, Yang, this subject's daughter and Qin Mimi have a good relationship. It's hard for you to have such a deep sisterly relationship. However, Li Mimi is right. A wild girl from the countryside doesn't even know how to read a basket of characters. Don't ask her to understand the rules. As long as her appearance is passable, it's fine as long as she doesn't obstruct the scenery of the palace. Li Yinyan was greatly angered by Lin Shufei's words. She lowered her eyes and frowned. Before she could find anything to refute, Qin Yining spoke first. Shufei Niang is right. This subject's daughter is vulgar and not worthy of serving the emperor. But the emperor is a person, His Majesty's daughter's daughter. Nyang, please be careful with your words and don't try to guess His Majesty's intentions. A big hat of guessing the emperor's heart was placed on her head. Compared to what Li Yinyan had said just now, Lin Shufei felt even more stifled. Lin Shufei was speechless and sneered. The daughter of wise Pan and is indeed extraordinary. Not everyone can have such a glib tongue. Don't tell me you used your glib tongue to confuse the emperor? His Majesty is wise and wise. How could he be confused by a few words? Or is it that Shufei Nyang thinks that the emperor is such a muddle-headed person? You, how impudent. Men, slap her mouth. Lin Shufei was so angry that her face and ears turned red. She shouted for the attendant to slap her. Seeing that the situation wasn't good, Jiao Mama hurriedly rushed forward to block in front of Qin Yining. She forced a smile and said, "Imperial concubine Shu, please calm down. No matter how angry Imperial concubine Shu is, it's not good for you to punish the harem in Jade Green Palace, right? If His Majesty finds out, he will definitely be furious. What will Nyang do at that time? This concubine is disciplining the harem. Jiao Mama, please don't interfere." Lin Shufei's voice softened a bit. In the end, she didn't dare to offend the emperor's wet nurse. However, her unyielding attitude didn't change. She glared fiercely at her trusted attendant. That attendant walked forward and swung his hand to slap her. How could Qin Yining be willing to be wronged? She quickly calculated in her mind. Her hand had already grabbed that attendant's wrist. His hand stopped right next to her cheek and couldn't move an inch further. The attendant cried out in pain. Qin Yining's fingers were on his wrist, and he was using a lot of strength. In addition, he had punished palace maids many times before, and he had never seen anyone retaliate. In his shock and pain, he couldn't help but turn around to look at Lin Shufei. Looking at her didn't seem to be a big deal. The attendant was so frightened that he fell to his knees. Your Majesty." Everyone was gathered around Qin Yining with their backs to the palace door. They didn't notice when the emperor had arrived behind them. They also didn't know how long he had been watching for. Qin Yining's line of sight had been blocked by the crowd, and he didn't notice Yu Qiyan's arrival. Lin Shufei turned around and saw Yu Qiyan standing there with his hands behind his back with a heavy expression. Her heart skipped a beat. She had heard that the emperor was very fond of this person from the Qin family, but she had served him for so many years. She wouldn't lose to a newcomer. Lin Shufei calmed herself down and then delicately knelt down. This concubine greets the emperor. This concubine greets the emperor. Li Yinyin and Gu Chang also bowed. The palace servants all knelt on the ground. They all lowered their heads, not daring to look directly at the emperor's face. They shrunk their shoulders in fear of being affected. The wrinkles between Yu Qiyan's brows furrowed even deeper. It made his graceful and refined face seem even more imposing. He walked forward with large strides. First, he supported Qin Yining's uninjured left arm and lifted her up. Then, under everyone's shocked gaze, he bent down and patted the dust off her dress. Qin Yining pursed his pale lips and took a step back. Yu Qiyan, however, did not allow her to retreat. He followed closely behind and held her arm without letting go. He turned around to look at Lin Shufei. "Why did you come here?" Lin Shufei didn't receive the decree and didn't dare stand up. She only knelt on the ground and smiled as she replied. Replying to the emperor, this concubine was taking a walk today and happened to pass by Jade Green Palace. I thought that my younger sisters would be entering the palace, so I came in to take a look. Yu Qiyan asked, "What did she do wrong for you to have the palace servants hit her?" Lin Shufei quickly said, "She doesn't understand etiquette and treated this concubine poorly. This concubine only wanted to teach her etiquette." "Teach her etiquette? So you insulted her and also insulted this one's important minister and this one's teacher? Who gave you the guts?" Lin Shufei's beautiful face immediately turned pale. She bowed with a pale face and said, "Emperor, please forgive this concubine only. You slap yourself 30 times. After you're done, go home and reflect on your mistakes. Without this one's decree, you're not allowed to take half a step out. Do you understand?" Lin Shufei raised her head in shock and looked at Yu Qiyan in a daze. "Emperor." This was making it so that she wouldn't have a place to stand in the future. Lin Shufei looked at Li Yinyin and Gu Chang on the side for help. But the two of them were so scared by the emperor's anger that they didn't dare speak. Yu Qiyan didn't forget to add, "Just kneel here and hit." Lin Shufei's face was pale white. Her pleading gaze finally fell on Qin Yining. She thought that since they would be living in the same palace in the future, they would see each other frequently. She should at least leave some face for her to meet in the future, right? But Qin Yining did not speak and just calmly looked at her. Lin Shufei took off the pure gold armor on her hands. Her beautiful eyes were filled with tears. She bit her lip and slapped herself in an aggrieved manner. Yu Qiyan coldly said, "Too light." Lin Shufei no longer had any hope. She closed her eyes and gritted her teeth. Her hands slapped left and right. The sound of the slaps was very clear, and her face quickly turned red. The 30 slaps were quickly finished. Lin Shufei's hair was tied up, and her face was covered in tears. She bowed her head to the ground and then retreated. She ran away as if she didn't have the face to see anyone. Chapter 239. Yu Qiyan left in a hurry, and the strength she used to hold her wrist was also very strong, causing her wrist to turn red. Qin Yining didn't even frown as she followed him into the main hall. Li Yinyin and Gu Chang both let out a sigh of relief and were helped up by their personal maidservants and palace servants. The two of them looked at Yu Qiyan and Qin Yining's backs with a complicated expression. The emperor loved the Qin clan so much. If she entered the palace, would the two of them still have a place to stand in the future? Eunuch Lu followed them in and stood in the outer hall. Zhao Momo hurriedly brought Xiao Ningzi and Xiao Yangzi to close the door and stood guard outside the hall. Li Yinyin and Gu Chang also brought their respective palace servants back to the side hall, not daring to peek at the emperor's words. In the main hall, Yu Qiyan pulled her arm and strode into the inner room. He forcefully swung his arm and threw Qin Yining onto the bed. "Why are you doing this to Zhen?" This woman had someone else in her heart, not him. He didn't believe that Pang Xiao, that evil embryo, would so coincidentally propose a ceasefire, nor did he believe that the rumors in the city would coincidentally rise at this time. He knew that Qin Yining was a very intelligent woman. He also knew that her maternal grandmother was the head of the Qingtian Alliance. Although the Qingtian Alliance had already been disbanded, he thought that if there were any rumors, Qin Yining could find someone to help. She must have colluded with Pang Zhishi to set up this trap and use the public's voices to force him to let go. On the way here, he was so angry that he wanted to strangle her to death. But when he saw her being bullied, he couldn't help but stand up for her. Yu Qiyin began to feel disdain for himself. "Why are you doing this to me?" Yu Qiyin no longer called himself Zhen and roared angrily. "Could it be that you can't feel my sincerity towards you at all?" Qin Yining knew that Pang Xiao had succeeded. She clutched her shoulder, which was hurting from the shock, and slowly knelt down. "Your Majesty, please quell your anger. How am I supposed to calm down after what you've done?" Yu Qiyin's eyes were red. He grabbed her left hand and lifted her up, trapping her in front of him. He stared into her eyes and gnashed his teeth. "Do you hate me that much? Was the person with the surname Yin that good? Tell me, how am I inferior to him? Tell me." The tips of their noses were almost touching. The unfamiliar man scent made Qin Yining extremely uncomfortable. She twisted her body and tried to break free from his grip, but Yu Qiyin refused to let go. "Your Majesty, this subject's daughter has never deceived you. This subject's daughter has no romantic feelings for you. So you colluded with the enemy's general to set up this trap for me to fall into." "I didn't." "You didn't? Believe it or not, I'll punish your entire family." "If your Majesty doesn't believe me, you can go and investigate. This subject's daughter didn't even bring her personal maidservant with me when I entered the palace. Even if I wanted to, I wouldn't be able to. If your Majesty wants to punish someone, you must at least have evidence. Could it be that your Majesty wants to imitate retired emperor's ability to misrepresent a deer as a horse? How dare you? How impudent! This subject's daughter doesn't dare." Qin Yining lowered her eyes, looking at the person in his arms and breathing in the faint fragrance of her body. Yu Qiyin's eyes were already red. He tightened his arms, wishing that he could choke her to death in his arms or break her slender waist. However, Qin Yining fearlessly said, "Your Majesty, what's the situation outside right now? You just ascended the throne, so you should also plan for the stability of the country." Her calm words were the last straw that broke the camel's back. Yu Qiyan's emotions suddenly collapsed. "What kind of emperor am I? I'm swayed by public opinion and threatened by my subjects. I can't even obtain the woman I love. What's the point of being the emperor?" As he spoke, his tears uncontrollably flowed out. He fiercely pushed Qin Yining away, grabbed his hair with both hands, and screamed, "I don't care if I don't become the emperor. I don't care if I don't become the emperor." Qin Yining was pushed back and tripped over the step in front of the bed. She bumped into the low cabinet behind her, and the white porcelain spittoon box fell to the ground and shattered into pieces. Her hand happened to press on the broken porcelain, causing her to frown in pain. She sighed and looked at Yu Qiyin with a bit of pity and guilt. But she couldn't be cruel to this person. Otherwise, she would be disloyal to her love. "Your Majesty, who isn't bound in this world? How many people could live a free and easy life? The common people are like this, and the emperor is also like this. Everyone is born with their own position. Just like the actors on the stage, everyone has their own position. Even if they don't want to, they still have to follow the script and sing their own play. Otherwise, everything will fall into chaos. The play won't be able to continue, and life won't be able to go on. Your Majesty was born into the imperial family, so you are destined to have this kind of fate." Yu Qiyan's hair was messed up by his own hands, and his face was still covered in tears. After being stunned for a moment, he suddenly laughed mockingly. "That's right, everyone has their own position. Zhen is the emperor, and you are a subject. Zhen is bound, and so are you. All right, Zhen will comply with the will of the people. Since you are the holy maiden who can protect the fate of the country, you will lose your marriage. Then Jin will grant you your wish and confer upon you the title of Taoist Master Xuanzu. Jin will bestow upon you the imperial side courtyard and bestow upon you 100 Taoist nuns to be your disciples. From today onwards, you will fulfill the will of the people and pray for the country. Qin Yining was stunned for a moment, then calmly knelt down properly. Xuanzu thanks your majesty for the conferment. Ha ha ha! Yu Yin broke into laughter. Jin can't have it, and I definitely won't let anyone else have it. Little Lu, why aren't you sending Taoist Master Xuanzu to the side courtyard to cultivate? Eunuch Lu was in the outer hall and had clearly heard the argument between the emperor and Qin Yining. He was so scared that he was sweating profusely and trembling like a sieve. Hearing the emperor's summons, he immediately wiped away his sweat and carefully bowed as he came in. This servant obeys. Taoist Master Xuanzu, please. Qin Yining bowed, then stood up and followed Eunuch Lu outside. Yu Yin looked at Qin Yining's back. Before they walked out of the hall, he couldn't help but say, "First, ask the imperial physician to bandage Xuanzu's hand. Her hand is injured." Qin Yining's footsteps paused, his heart trembling. He closed his eyes but didn't turn back. Eunuch Lu's heart ached, and he hurriedly said, "Yes, this servant will go immediately." How was it that the emperor didn't like Miss Qin? He clearly doted on her to the bone. It was just that due to worldly affairs, he had no choice but to let her cultivate with her hair. Eunuch Lu's nose ached, and his tears flowed down. He wiped his tears and left the main hall with Qin Yining. Outside, Nanny Jiao, Xingyu, and Fu Shui were all frightened. Looking at her back, Yu Qian's eyes filled with tears again. He raised his head and tried to control his tears, but they flowed down the corners of his eyes and into his temples. It was itchy and cold, just like his heart for her. Percent what? You said, sister, he was forced to become a nun. The old madam stood up, and the teacup in her hand fell to the ground. The Sun Clan's eyes widened in shock. How could this be? Qin Huayuan's face was as calm as water, and he didn't say a word. Second Master said dejectedly, the emperor wanted to marry Sister Yi to be the empress, but there were rumors outside. The emperor couldn't go against the will of the people. He didn't want anyone else to have a woman he couldn't have. So he conferred Sister Yi the title of Xuanzu Taoist Master and changed the imperial residence into the Xuanzu Temple. He also bestowed 100 Taoist nuns to Sister Yi and ordered Sister Yi to cultivate with her hair and pray for the country. You're tuning into the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.